Welcome to The Real Review, sponsored by PickTalk and Parametric Studios, where you get some of the latest happenings, real thoughts, and real perspectives in the world of film and television. Today, we're talking about Spider-Man: No Way Home. It's Marvel's most anticipated and most ambitious movie of the year. But did it stick the landing? That and more on today's episode of The Real Review, so stay tuned.
Welcome to The Real Review.
So a lot of the other Spider-Mans, in my opinion, have had really good one-liners, kind of like zingers. He doesn't really have a lot of those. His one-liners tend to be very much like, whoa, wait, let me explain. We need to talk, like, calm down. That seems like his thing is like nerves.
Right.
It tends to be
the
that
other
way.
thing I noticed too is whenever he gets in a fight afterwards, his eyes are really red.
Oh, they did do that in a lot in this movie.
He cries a lot.
Yeah.
He does cry a lot.
Oh, there's like a whole Mexican standoff of teenagers crying in this movie.
That
Spoiler.
Is true. Yeah, spoiler. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, we can get into it now. I guess that's kind of good enough. I was not expecting that.
Oh, that's a good one.
It's a good one, yeah.
You serious?
You're serious?
I'm going to need a direct line from my laptop into the recording, please.
Yeah, I mean, that was the first point where they started to tie in, I guess, the old Spider-Man with the current Spider-Man. And I was very happy that they made that choice. It's been very odd, I think, for me in experiencing the Marvel multiverse, because it's been weirdly defined, I think, in my mind, to the point where it's like I don't really know. Maybe that's the point. Yeah, but like, what are the rules to the multiverse right now? Like, I don't.
Well, you watched Loki, right?
I did. Yeah.
Okay, that to me laid the groundwork for it pretty well. And
right,
then,
which is that there's like no rules, and then I watched the
what ifs.
What do they call it? The
What ifs.
Yeah, the what ifs. Yeah, you're right. And those again, it's like no rules, just kind of do whatever you feel like doing.
I thought this movie handled the multiverse really well. I'm not sure if that's a spoiler a whole lot or not.
No, I mean,
everybody kind of knows it's coming, right?
Yeah. If you don't already know that
All right.
it's dealing in the multiverse.
In the title, Spider-Man: No Way Home to the multiverse.
Yeah,
right.
Semicolon, comma.
Captain America verse.
Captain America verse, yeah.
But anyway, I think the knee-jerk reaction to something like this would be go overboard and just make it like, I mean, it's a multiverse. It could literally be whatever you want it to be. And they did a good job of keeping it grounded.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I'm not attacking the idea of them doing a multiverse. I just...
No, I know.
There's an idea in my mind of kind of what that would look like, which is basically like the way that I had imagined it originally when they said they were going to get it. Maybe it's because I'm very unfamiliar with the comic book, unlike yourself. Is basically it was going to be the same people, just different iterations of that have done different things and experienced different things. But it's almost, especially based on the what ifs, it's like any entity could be a different entity. So you could have literally a crocodile version of a person or, a god, if you will, for Loki. And that's just kind of how it's going to be in the multiverse, which is, again, so it's just kind of like there's no rules, which is good in a way because it keeps you guessing, like what's it going to be like. But then it's also a little bit like it just feels a little too out there at times. But I think in this one they did like do a good job with the multiverse aspects, and we won't get into the spoilers too much at this point. But
they keep it grounded, I think.
Yeah, I agreed. Yeah, why don't...
Well, the comics in particular were so brilliant back in the day, of course.
Yeah.
I was actually collecting them. Twofold. It is like an anthology where, like you're saying, no rules, anything can go. But it was really a way to like showcase new artists or new writers to kind of get their feet wet. So it's like a one-issue standoff. So, when Rob Liefeld was, coming up with his New Mutants run and everything, he did a what if, Wolverine joined S.H.I.E.L.D. And it was just one issue, different writers, and they were always great. The series, kind of started and stopped a couple times, but they've always been great. And they're always fun.
Yeah.
But, yeah, you're not contributing anything to the overall Marvel Universe by having them.
Agreed.
Yeah, there's no permanent choice.
They're
right?
fun, but if we're going to waste you're like, I'm not going to criticize. I will, but but I'm saying,
I would. I mean,
I'm saying, are you going to waste? Not waste, but I think what they're doing with Kang, I think is going to be brilliant, hopefully. But if you're going to waste a couple movies on a multiverse by showing us a bunch of stuff that, oh, crazy, but at the end of the day, it's all going to go back to normal, and you haven't really pushed forward the regular universe, you just wasted 5 years or something.
Yeah, I agree with that. There's been a sense that I've had, right? My feeling of the Marvel universe right now is it's been so focused on secondary things. There hasn't been one driving story, and it's hard to compete, right? You know, you have the Infinity Saga.
Well, yeah, but
it's hard to compete with that story narrative. But right now, it's like, where are they going other than?
Yeah, there's been 2 Spider-Man movies now that don't push the narrative,
right?
at
And
all.
the big thing that they've said with every show, even in my opinion, is that we're undoing everything from what you thought you knew about the Marvel universe. You know, the characters are being reimagined. The Infinity Stones themselves are now gone and or pointless, you know, depending upon if you're where you're at in the multiverse, you know. So it's like, it was just a very quick turn. It was like we went from this huge build-up, Infinity Saga, Endgame, to now all of a sudden it's like, and we're going to show you a bunch of other stuff that makes all that feel like it's less important. It's not a bad thing necessarily. It just is kind of, it's left a little bit of a bad taste in my mouth at times. And I felt like, to tie it in specifically with Spider-Man No Way Home, I felt like this was the first project that they did, without spoiling aspects, where it really felt like it stood on the shoulders of prior footage, like prior movies and prior content, not even from this Marvel universe, but it stood on those shoulders, and it did it in an uplifting, positive way versus what we saw in Loki, which is literally like, oh yeah, Infinity Stones, you know, who cares about those? Those don't do anything. It's like, well, those were so important for, you know, 10 years of my life. I would like to know that they have some weight and some significance. Sorry.
But that specific scene is basically saying that in an alternate universe, those stones don't have that same power because they weren't forged in that. You know,
I get that, and I understand the mindset behind why they want to show that. It's just that it does a disservice. It's like you have a character that you've built up this connection with for 10 years, and then suddenly somebody comes to you and goes, oh yeah, they're weak, they're stupid, they don't matter, they have no point in any of this.
It was
like, okay.
It was hardly a quad-titted alien milking scene.
No,
you know what I mean?
It wasn't.
Star Wars.
Yeah, it wasn't a. It was a Star Wars reference for those who don't get that. It just it hit me in a way, again, where it felt like a disservice to fans, and it feels like they've been trying to do a lot to just say like, get over what we did with Endgame. Get over what's happened with prior movies and content.
If I see Robert Downey Jr. in the role in a multiverse Iron Man, it's going to ruin it for me.
Yeah. I don't know.
You bring up a good point, Joel, though, because there hasn't been a movie since Endgame besides this one that even references it, right? You've had Shang-Chi, Eternals.
Yeah, Shang-Chi, which is kind of starting its
Spider-Man,
own thing,
Far
and
From Home.
only briefly mentions like the Avengers, and then you had
I guess
Black Widow.
Far From Home, Stark is dead.
Yep.
That's about it, though, right?
Right, yeah. And that took place...
Yeah, that's the first one after Endgame.
Black Widow doesn't reference it.
Widow doesn't reference it really at all because it's prequel of sorts to the Endgame.
It's after Civil War, before
and then you had the Eternals, which...
So this is the first movie to actually reference Endgame, basically, right?
Not really.
I would say not
reference, but like you said, stand on the shoulders of.
Yeah, stand on the shoulders of. Eternals referenced it again, but it wasn't part of the plot.
Far From Home did.
You know,
I thought it was very relevant.
Yeah,
you know,
for Far From
the
Home,
the morning of Tony Stark. And
I would agree. Yeah, but other than that, it's
doesn't
most of the content. I guess I should say not all of it, but most of the content has really been like pushing different stories and different narratives that have been very, very, very minor connections.
Right. Whereas this one felt like more, it pushed the entire narrative.
Right. It was a continuation of the story that ended with Endgame and the conclusion of a number of different characters within that. So it was like there was a significance to this. And it wasn't just like an offhanded reference or like an attack against stuff that happened during that. This one had a lot of tie-ins to, I mean, there was even a tie-in to what was happening with, I forget the little name of that city that Thor, the people of Asgard, created, but like in the movie there's like a little reference to what's going on with them, and it's, you know, they're talking about what's his name, Samuel Jackson's character,
Nick Fury.
They're talking about him being off planet, and spoiler, but like they're, you know, there's references and there's tie-ins to what's been going on with the bigger narrative, and I like that. It's nice to kind of be back to like, hey, we're back into our main story versus all these side things, which at some point, especially like with Black Widow, or not Black Widow, with Scarlet Witch, you know, with her tie-in to Doctor Strange, it looks like with the next film and everything.
But you got to remember, all this stuff is delayed by at least a year.
I know.
Like all these movies
I'm not
would
saying
have
that,
already came out.
I'm not saying they don't have
ago.
valid reasons and understanding for why that is the case. I'm saying it's nice that it is the case, though, that we're moving into actual content that connects.
It's kind of smart, because if they're going to run with this for 50 years, I mean, what is the cutoff, right? 50 years, maybe?
Yeah.
Well, we haven't even gotten to the Fox acquiring of Fox.
Right. So at some point,
there's a lot of people
X-Men,
talking about
Fantastic
when they're
Four.
going to do that.
They
now.
actually made an announcement for Fantastic Four. So
let's say the average age of the viewer is 13, right, for a kid anyway. At some point, which is now pretty much, that 13-year-old was born right when this started. Yeah. So at some point, they might not want to go back and watch the 18 movies. Yeah. Right? They might want to just say, oh, just start with Spider-Man No Way Home. Right. And watch from there.
And they'll do like their reboot, which is like their...
or they're going to live long enough to see Spider-Man milk a quad-titted alien. Right.
Yeah. Well, they'll do their restart. Like they'll do their Spider-Man 1 again, Iron Man 1 again at some point, but I don't think we're there. Well, there's still plenty that
what I'm most scared of is they're going to use the multiverse as an excuse to just shoehorn in
new actors playing the same characters.
No, old
that too.
Old franchises just being folded in because it's much easier. You know. Yeah.
I could see them doing it. I mean, that's a very
I love Hugh Jackman, but I want a new X-Men. I want a new Wolverine.
What if it's like Disney's multiverse? So it's like, and here's Donald Duck.
And all of a sudden, Elsa from Frozen comes out of a portal. What am I doing here? I'm just kidding. Sorry.
Did you catch, because we were just talking about references and this one's not a spoiler, did you catch the connection to Hawkeye in the movie?
I did. Yeah.
Right at the beginning where it's Rogers the musical?
Yeah. I watched, I caught some of them, but I'm like, I want to be up on all the tie-ins, and I watched a movie on YouTube, or a video talking about all the different tie-ins and Easter eggs, and it was like over 30.
Oh, I did not catch 30.
Yeah, even the
Screen
car
Crush is really good, and New Rock Stars they're kind of annoying, but
yeah, even the license plates on the cars. There's like one big fight scene that takes place, again, not trying to spoil too much here, but there's a big scene that takes place on a bridge, and the license plates. The director's been known for this, but like one of the license plates is an anagram for, I think, Spidey, and it's also the date and number of the publication of the first appearance of another one of Doc Ock. Yeah, that's cool. And then there's like on one of the outsides, a Spider-Man like swings by. There's this deli that he goes to, and it's like deli, and it's got the third now because it's like the third Spider-Man film. And there's so many tie-ins.
When that deli got blown up or something.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. So it's really cool if you get a chance to watch and go back. And it's amazing how they've made. They have to have somewhere, like I would think, like a show book, which is like a description of all the characters and like key. Here's like 6 things about them that are like key aspects.
A lot of Ditko in the graffiti in the background when they're on that roof.
Yeah.
Spoilers, they're on a roof.
Right. It's like here's Happy, and Happy used to look like this, and Happy it wants this, and so because there was like a tie-in, and I won't say how, but like they show a picture of Happy from long ago with long hair, and they also show that he used to watch Downton Abbey, and so it's like he used to watch Downton Abbey, and they had Downton Abbey on the bookshelf like in his apartment. So it's like all these things that just they tie in. That's what, again, when I come back to it, I'm like, that's the Marvel that I love. Not necessarily that they can't introduce new characters and new stories. I want that, right? You want to grow the universe and have new things that are entering into it, but you don't want it to be, again, just kind of like saying, oh, well, that's dumb. Like, you don't, who cares about what happened with Iron Man or the Infinite? Like, if it's going to trash what came before, then I'm probably not going to enjoy that, because again, it's in a weird way trashing what I was invested in and connected to. So I don't feel like they've done that overtly. Like, I don't feel like they've specifically pointed at the audience and said, like, you're stupid. Like, I talk about Walking Dead a lot with people, and that's a show that basically started to get to the point where it was like really just trying to almost insult its watchers. You know what I mean? Oh, you thought he was dead. Ha ha ha. No, now he's actually dead, and it's so much worse. Ha ha ha. Like, they're not doing that with Marvel yet. Maybe they'll get to that point. Hopefully not. I think that's a bad choice when you start to like attack your viewers.
Well, yeah, AMC in particular had so much behind the scenes drama in terms of budget cuts and screwing over actors and all.
Oh, for sure.
Stuff, so.
Yeah. I mean, 100%. But they also, the direction they took the story started to take a very negative turn. Like, it was not just cheap, not just, poorly.
No, we're talking
staged.
We're talking double the episode number per season.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I was
with half the budget.
I was very aware of that. I mean, they killed off the showrunner like a month before the third season started off, and he had brought in a bunch of his. I mean, and they asked for more budget, lower budget with more episodes. Like, I'm totally aware of that. It just, the actual story itself became something very negative. And it wasn't like
Game of Thrones.
I can understand if it's like, well, they just, they don't have the money, so they're going to have an episode where they're stuck in a trailer,
the bottle episode or whatever.
Right, the bottle episode, or the season, the entire season where they're stuck on a farm, right? And the whole thing is about, how do we get this, zombie out of a well? It's like, who cares? I get it, but who cares? So, right. So the whole point I'm just saying is, as long as Marvel does, I'm understanding the fact that they need to bring in new elements and new things, and it's going to be done better and worse. We've seen that even with their films, right? There's been new characters that they've introduced in better or worse ways. Like, you did a great job introducing this character. You did a horrible job introducing this character. So I get that. It's just, if it gets to the point where they're not just doing it poorly, but they're also doing it in a negative, attacking fashion, then I'm going to have a real problem personally. Before we get too far in, which we're way into the weeds already, but I want to make sure I get a chance for you guys to introduce yourself. For people that are listening, I'm Joel Cunningham.
I'm Ross Caligiuri.
I'm David Deloso.
Awesome. And today we're talking about Spider-Man No Way Home. In case you weren't already aware from the conversation, I'll give you a brief synopsis, and then I'll do a little character rundown. So synopsis for this is, with Spider-Man's identity now revealed, Peter asks Doctor Strange for help. When a spell goes wrong, dangerous foes from other worlds start to appear, forcing Peter, that's the multiverse there, forcing Peter to discover what it truly means to be Spider-Man. Its director is John Watts. Stars Tom Holland, Zendaya, Benedict Cumberbatch, Jacob Batalon, Jean Favreau, Jamie Foxx, William Dafoe, Alfred. I'm not going to go into all of them, especially because it could get into potential spoilers for people. But yes, very large cast, very significant cast in many ways. I had a lot of thoughts and personal opinions about going into this Spider-Man movie, which was in many ways due to the fact that not just where the Marvel universe is, that's a big part of it. Spider-Man is one of my favorite superheroes of all time. That's always been the case for me. That's another reason. Yeah. And then thirdly, and this was something that I've never expected to be of relevance, but has impacted my view of the movies and the content. We've seen Spider-Man now. This is the third iteration.
So you were there in the beginning with Tobey Maguire?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've always been a fan of superhero movies. Even going back to the original Batman with Michael Keaton, the original Superman, pretty much,
Punisher.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Pretty much any superhero movie, I would pretty much always give it an opportunity to fail me. Is kind of how I would say, because most were failures, unfortunately, especially after a certain iteration of the Batman films. But I would try and give everyone
the first one.
I really like the first two. Same director, same general, production design, everything.
I was just being bad joke.
Yeah. And it really gave me a perspective on what, watching that as a kid, it really gave me, because I had always thought that, Superman was what superheroes were supposed to be, right? They're always supposed to be larger than life, uplifting, bold, strong,
in shape.
Yeah, perfect in a certain sense. And their struggles were much more external, right? That they have all the strength within them, but there's other forces that are going to come against them, and they just have to rise up to the challenge. Batman was one of the first characters that I remember watching as a superhero, where it was like, yes, it was larger than life, it was grand, it was otherworldly, but it also had this dark edge to it, where it was kind of like, oh, well, superhero characters can also be a little bit dark and moody and have some kind of negative aspects and edges to it. And I remember, the original Batman is one of my favorite films of all time. It's not because it's a great film, which I do really like it, but because of my connection to it.
Like the Tim Burton first correct. Batman? Wow.
Yes, not the show or anything like that. I didn't really get into
Batman
the show.
Forever,
before my
right?
time.
That's what you're talking about?
Yes,
Batman
absolutely.
Forever?
Batman credit card. There you
Bat
go.
nips?
Yeah. So going into this Spider-Man movie, there was a lot weighing on my shoulders, just because, again, of all those connections that I have in the context of it. And I always try to give a film a fair chance. But I will say that my expectations were very high for this one, and it in many ways actually met my expectations, which is a very big shocker for me. These days, I don't have a lot of faith in Hollywood and a lot of different media that's coming out. There's a lot of times where I'm like, I just can't trust that this is going to turn into something good. And this was the first time where I feel like I was in a while well rewarded for kind of my wait. But I want to give you guys a chance too. What were some, what were you going
My expectations going into it were low, but that's because I'm coming off of Shang-Chi.
Yeah.
And
Shang-Chi.
Shang-Chi. And only because, like we're talking about, it didn't push the narrative of the main story arc at all. Right? And so this one, I just figured it was going to be like Far From Home or that one, Shang-Chi. And I was incredibly happy with the way that they used all the connections in this one, like we're talking about. And
yeah.
I guess I would say this is exactly what I expect a Marvel movie to be at this point. Like, this is the level they need to be at. But I think all of them need to be at this level, even if it's an origin story.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Yeah. How about you, Dave?
Expectations going in?
Yeah.
Zero.
Okay.
Like, I liked them. I liked them all. But this iteration of Spider-Man was too much for kids for me as a old man with gray chest hair.
Prove it. Let's
but
see.
I'm saying that's later, so we get the ratings.
Yeah.
For the YouTube channel. But,
sign up now.
So it's always like, I thought the first one was okay. The second one really surprised me because I love like long con type movies, like
and
con jobs. Yeah. And so this one, of course, everything was spoiled.
Yeah.
So I think that
you got everything spoiled for you, like every aspect of the.
Yeah, and not even trying to seek out the information. It's just out there. Everything. It's in the headline of every YouTube channel. It's this. It's that.
Yeah.
I did like they did a good job of making this more adult. It's not completely adult, but it definitely is a more adult Spider-Man.
Yeah.
More bigger consequences.
That's what I'm saying. He's growing. That's what I.
Yeah.
In the end, I liked it. What they did with it at the end, but kind of put him in that out of high school stage. Spoilers, but he graduates.
Yeah. This was so one of the things they talked about as far as that level is the influence for this film was John Hughes. A lot of John Hughes films, which are very much coming of age films, but they also delve into some kind of dark areas, depending upon which one of his movies you're watching. I mean, they can get pretty dark at times, and they're always kind of lighthearted in nature, though. So they're feel good, but they also can delve into some dark areas depending upon the film. Yeah. And that was a sense that I was kind of getting from this movie, especially with some of the decisions that are made kind of over the course of the film, and the results of those decisions that we see take place in the film. And it went to some dark areas.
Yeah, I never really, I didn't think that while I was watching it, but now that I'm thinking back through the movie, like the scene with them on the rooftop is very John Hughes.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of some other ones, but yeah, you're right on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, I wouldn't be like, oh my gosh, that's just a John Hughes film, but it was like an obvious,
it's like sitting on a table
stylistic
to eat
choice,
dinner,
right?
Like 16 candles or whatever that was.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. The music cues and everything kind of play on that.
And then the other thing I would say is this was the first Spider-Man series of films where I feel like the films got better. So most of the Spider-Man films have started at a peak and slowly, progressively gotten worse in my mind as they've gotten more into like, well, we got to make it bigger. We got to have more, more of this and different characters and because they keep the ball spinning for so long. I mean, the third Spider-Man movie in the original iteration was a tough watch, in my opinion.
But that was, again, and producers wanting Venom in it when Raimi was again, like,
it's just them failing to continue moving forward with the series. And then again, the second one was pretty quick. I didn't really like the first Andrew Garfield Amazing Spider-Man. I like him as an actor. I love him in the role.
Oh, he's an incredible actor.
Yeah, but I didn't feel like
I thought
the film
they got
was good.
Spider-Man right. They just didn't get Peter Parker right.
Yeah, and then the second film was much worse than the first.
Which
and
I never saw.
This one was, when I first saw the first Spider-Man, I really had problems with it because Spider-Man's one of my favorite superheroes. It really felt like Iron Man, Spider-Man. Like it was like the origin story of
criticism of it.
So like the first iteration of it, I felt like we were kind of moving into this quasi Iron Man spider thing, and it was odd. It didn't really even feel like a Spider-Man movie. He's supposed to be your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. He's supposed to...
Not even that. You're missing that Uncle Ben death, that weight.
Right. And you have like...
Of Catalyst, in terms of
you have a super young, attractive Aunt May.
Which I was like...
Yeah, and...
I love Marissa Tomei, but what the hell?
And so then the second one, I was like... Okay, I it's more Spider-Man-like. It's more enjoyable. They're moving into some stuff, even if it's kind of still Iron Man. This is still Spider-Man-esque. And then this third one, was like the most Spider-Man he's ever been, and it's so good in that way to me. And I feel like the real key to this is, somebody said this to me, and I'm like, oh, that's so true. It's almost like these first three films have been an origin story for Spider-Man. It's like he's coming of age into being Spider-Man throughout the course of the first three films. And if I look at them individually, I can see that, there's like, to the point where we get him in this third one where he is, and I can't spoil it, but it's literally like where the first act of most of the original Spider-Mans would have gone is where we're at now with Spider-Man in a lot of ways. And it's... Because
Spider-Man's always hinged on, you're just a dumb kid. And now you have all these responsibilities.
It's kind of it's with the great power comes great responsibility thing too. Right. And
but they always hit that.
There's always been a weight of, he has this great power, but he also wants to have a normal life, but he has to pay the bills, but he also wants to save people's lives. But he's like he loves people, but he can't be connected to them because he's got all this dark stuff he's trying to deal with. So there's always been that back and forth, which a lot of the other characters in the Marvel Universe don't deal with. They're just like, I'm full-time Iron Man. I'm Tony Stark. Everybody knows it, right? Like Captain America. Everybody knows Captain America is Captain America. Spider-Man is one of the only Marvel characters that is really, except for maybe Ant-Man, but that's a completely different thing, where it's kind of like his identity is hidden. And he's trying to keep his personal life and his superhero life very separated. And this was the first one that really deals with when those two worlds collide. And that's such a Spider-Man thing to deal with. So I think for that reason, I really enjoyed it. And then just to go into like the actual content of the film, I felt like was very well constructed.
I think the humor is spot on the entire time. I didn't find myself groaning or going, oh, that joke's old. I've heard it a million times. Like everything landed, like you were talking about John Favreau happy, and they show a picture of him from 20 years ago. And he's got some kind of mullet, like even that made me laugh. So
but even that's a reference from like Iron Man 3 or something.
Way back when. So
but there's like another scene, everybody's being interrogated and the usual characters are standing up against authority, and then the one character is just super gullible and falls for every line, like, oh, you are my best friend, okay, I'll tell you everything. Like just the humor worked. I think
so too. The interrogation scene was pretty funny. Spoilers.
I know. I'm just trying not to plan ahead how I'm
trying to not spoil things for you guys here. So I think we're leaving some of the bigger stuff untalked about. But I'm trying to think what else we could talk about without getting too far into the spoiler stuff.
Everybody knows. I guess I don't want to say it.
Yeah, can't even say about.
I'm trying to imagine if you hadn't seen the trailer, even you wouldn't know some of that stuff.
Yeah.
Can we talk about what's in the trailer or no? Is that spoiler?
I think so. I mean, I don't think there's anything.
So Doctor Strange is in it.
Yeah. I mean,
that's not a spoiler, right?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
But there's one scene where they're looking through his living space and they find the goatee dyeing kit.
That was great.
Yeah. But it's just in the background. But even I'm just thinking of like humor that really worked in the movie.
Yeah. It's like how to have because it's such a weird but real thing to find.
Right. But nobody says anything. It just somebody holds it up and that's it.
Happens. Right? It's like off and then moving on.
Yeah.
I like that. I mean, that's kind of it's clever humor in a lot of ways. So I'm trying to think of what else we could talk about without getting too into the spoiler stuff, because a lot of it you just have to talk about, I think, expectations and then how it landed. And I think overall it landed very well for me. How did it land for you guys?
Oh, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Like I said, this is the Marvel movie I've been expecting for how many years has it been now since Endgame?
3?
Yeah.
I want to say 3.
I mean, we've had at least 4 movies come out now, right?
Oh, yeah.
Blockbusters.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah.
Everyone I saw, I expected to be at this level, but then because they weren't, my expectations for this one were low. and this kind of raised it back up, and I'm going to be disappointed again.
It's like, it's sad that I know that this isn't going to be where they stay.
Yeah, but it should be the standard. Like at this point, you should be connecting things constantly, and everybody lives in the same world, unless it's Guardians of the Galaxy and you're out in space, or Captain Marvel, and they don't really have any idea what's been happening on Earth.
Yeah.
Any character based on Earth should understand what's been going on on Earth.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but are we rating it right now?
We can. I wanted to hear, Dave, what your kind of feel like, how it landed for you as well.
Just good.
Good? Okay.
Yeah, not great, but
like
it was
high
fun.
40s.
High 40s.
Yeah. Well, considering it actually had a theatrical release, 45.
Yeah. Got a 45 for being in theaters. Cool.
Right.
All right. Well,
No, yeah.
I mean,
if we're rating it, I'll
since
give it
we're
a better number than that. But
since we're running out of things to talk about without,
it's hard not to spoil this.
Yeah, why don't we give our rating, and then we can kind of move more into the spoiler talk.
Mm-hmm.
You want to go ahead, Ross?
Yeah, sure. I'm waiting for the gasps. I'm going to give it a 95. I don't know how on par that is with what you guys are saying, but I like going first because I'm not.
Let me take a sip of my coffee so I can spit it out.
Yeah, 95.
I would give it higher actually, but I don't think it quite hits that A+ mark. I think that I'm giving it a 95 because of how lackluster the other movies have been for me.
Yeah.
But I would like to give this a 95 in the hopes that Disney and Marvel keep saying, okay, he said 95. Let's please him.
Yeah. All right.
Is the Keller Jury review in?
Yeah, right.
We've got to know. We got to know. Who cares? It made $600 million. But we got to know.
We got to change everything.
As long as he was
95.
happy, keep doing it.
Yeah.
Check his social
media.
media.
That would be funny if they ever determine, sorry, this is totally outside the point, but if they find out that there's one person, some random girl or guy that has the ultimate taste,
that would be funny.
Whatever they think is right, they are always right. That would be hilarious.
That's a good story idea for
that
you.
That is a really good story idea. They just like, everybody just constantly brings them things to get their opinion on. That would be hilarious.
Like Mr. Perfect or the Perfect Man or something.
That is a great film idea.
That's TM travalmarked right now.
Trademarked right now. Yeah.
No, I actually want to launch a company because I think my opinion is that,
valid
to the pop culture, social.
It's like people used to give their stamp of approval. Remember people saying that?
How do I get into test audience screenings? That's what I want to know. I want to stop this crap from happening before it even gets to the
There's
theater.
a whole mix of ways to get into those test audiences. I mean, one, it helps to be in LA where they screen a lot of these things.
Oh, is that really it?
Yeah, but then also it helps to be, in a writers guild, or it helps to be in some producers guild, or help with productions. And
that's true.
There's a lot of different ways to get into those type. I mean, you can
I want the questionnaire. Right. On what did you think? What could we do better? Like
those types. Here's the thing, though. Like lots of those types of screenings are to get they don't want you, because I've been to a lot of those here locally.
We go to.
So I would get $30 to tell them what I think about this. New
a lot of those they want to know
like.
What is the general consensus? They don't want give me script notes.
Yeah.
Give me production notes. If you're talking about
I guess I need to sidestep everything, just try to get into
if you're talking about
room.
a true screening where it's for giving film feedback, you got to be probably in LA. You probably got to be connected to the studios and things. But you can get to test screenings. I can get you connected to test screening groups if you want, where they just do the questionnaire. You're not going to get any money.
But I'd enjoy to see the film. People have already seen Batman 6 months ago. What the hell?
Yeah, I saw. I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about it. I think I briefly mentioned.
Then
don't. Then don't.
No, I mean I saw a dinosaur themed film of Jurassic proportion.
Land Before Time 3.
Exactly.
Timmy and the Clonosaurus.
Yeah, and it was actually at times a little better than I expected in a very nostalgic way. So, but yeah, anyway, what would be your rating? I'm gonna say high 40s, but
this is gonna be a gasp. Yeah, 82.
Okay, it's not a gasp, I would say. I mean, it's lower than what I would think, but it's fine. Everybody has their opinions, and I'm not.
No need
to get out of
inject liquid from your beverage you just ingested. But
I'm a more moderate. I think, again, I feel like I always fall between the two of you for some reason. I'm at a 92. I had a hard time with this one because I feel like it sounds stupid, but I feel like I should give it a 93. But it's more like a 92.5. Mm-hmm. It's literally right between A and A minus.
5, it's rounded up to 93. So
I know.
You're saying 93.
It's
listen to yourself.
It's if a 90. It's I want to give it an A minus, but a 92 doesn't seem high enough. It seems like it needs to be 93.
82 is what? C?
B minus.
It's B minus. Yeah.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. So for me, it would probably be an A. So I'll up it
extra
to
credit
93.
for theatrical release.
Yeah.
That's going to give you 10 points at least.
I mean, we're consistent. When we started this podcast, the joke was that I'm always more forgiving for movies, so my ratings were always going to be higher. And I think there's been once where I was the lowest.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think I tend to be the middle one.
Yeah, you're always in the
you
middle.
guys. Yeah.
Dave's at the bottom and I'm at the top. Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, with that being said, let's move into some actual spoilers. There are a ton of big things that happen in this film. So if you don't want any of that spoiled, stop listening, cut off the podcast here, come back, rejoin us after you've had a chance to watch the movie. We would love to have you listen, but yeah, again, spoilers incoming, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Everybody lives except for
Aunt which I will say this,
out the gate.
Yeah. I will say this in the theater. As soon as she said that line to Peter, with great power also comes great responsibility. And I forget the exact way she verbiaged it, which was a tie-in. That's an Easter egg. She actually said it in the original way that it was said to Spider-Man back in the original run of the Spider-Man comics. So we know it in the Tobey Maguire one, which is with great power comes great responsibility, which is kind of like a shorthand version of the longer form that was originally set in. So it was interesting that they did that. But
so wait, what was the longer form?
I think it's something along the lines of with great power also comes great responsibility or something like that.
Okay.
Also will come great responsibility or something like that. I forget the exact way she said it, but as soon as she said that, I was in the theater, I was watching with Melanie, my girlfriend, and as soon as she said that, I looked over to him like, she's dead. And she was like, what? And I was like, nobody ever survives saying that. It is like the plague. Like, the moment you say that, you're gone from the Marvel Universe. And sadly, you're never coming back too, because that's like the Uncle Ben thing. Whenever he dies, he never returns.
Back
all
to
the Marvel
indie
universe,
films for Marissa Tomei.
Yeah, seriously. It's like with all the multiverse things that they've come out with all the different iterations of different characters and different universes, there's certain characters that never come back. And Uncle Ben is always one of them. And it's that line, I think, in particular. It's like, because
but now we got the multiverse.
It's like
he's the linchpin, you know what I mean? Right. It's like he's what allows Spider-Man as a character to become the character that he is, and he needs that. And it always comes at a time of great turmoil and sadness for Spider-Man, whichever Spider-Man it is, but it always leads to what I was mentioning, which is the basic premise, I think, of Spider-Man films, which is it's that balance of professional, superhero, and you're struggling against what you want to have, which is your personal enjoyment, personal life, it's the great power and great responsibility dynamic. So,
and you were right about Peter Parker being one of the few that has to hide his identity. Superman, another one, but there really isn't a lot.
Absolutely.
A lot of them are just kind of out in public and live their life.
Yeah. I mean, and that's what made the original, to me, Iron Man so interesting. I mean, you have Batman, which is DC. You have Superman, which is also DC. But like he comes out in the first
that
movie.
Actually shocked me in the
It did
theater.
too. Yeah, I was like, oh, he's going for it. I was like, nice. I mean,
like what?
It's one of the things that made it such an impactful film. But go ahead. Sorry.
No, that was it.
I
was blown away. Like it was such a funny moment. Like as a character, it worked so well, and it's Robert Downey Jr.'s performance, but he can't stand for somebody else to take the credit of his good deeds.
Absolutely.
So he had to. It's not even something he thought through.
It's like in the Dark Knight trilogy when Harvey Dent comes out and says he's Batman. Imagine like Christian Bale like pushing him out of the way.
Oh, yeah.
I can't stand letting someone else have this credit.
Hi, Batman. It's like he's never been the humble guy,
Or like the Dead Poet Society where everybody just slowly stands up one by one. I am Batman.
Yeah, I am Batman.
No, I am
Spartacus. I am Zorro. I've seen that happen. I was watching Zorro again. That happens in Zorro too. It's a pretty common trope that I am this, I am when they stand for the people. But I liked that. And I thought they ended the last Spider-Man in such an epic way to be like, crud, his identity is revealed. Where are they going to go from here? Because I mean, I knew that it was going to cause real turmoil for Peter Parker in the film. Yeah. And sure enough,
I like that this one started right where
loses his girlfriend.
Yeah, but I can't
loses his best friend,
right.
and I loses everybody even knowing who he is. Loses
and
his
I can't
aunt.
stand it when they do that kind of stuff in comics
Yeah.
where you can't walk this type of stuff back, you know?
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's hard to walk that back. And I think there was a lot, because this is based on what is considered, again, I'm not a huge comic book reader, so you guys maybe know better, but yeah, of what was considered by some to be a pretty controversial comic book run, which is the same idea, that is his identity gets out and he goes to Doctor Strange and says, hey, can you get rid of everybody's knowledge of me? And it ends up happening and going pretty much the same direction in the comic book run, but it was considered by some to be great and considered by others to be an awful way to treat him.
Well, even back in the day, it's like a natural evolution of the character was for him and Mary Jane to get married.
Right.
And then they were like, oh, it's hard to do stories with him being married. And then we got to, how can we not have her married?
Spider kids.
It's hard to swing around with a wedding ring on and weighing them down. Man, come on. Sounds like a guy that was scared of commitment that wrote that book.
Yeah, I think it was Ball and Chain that really weighed him down.
But
you know what I'm saying? Like they're writing themselves in the corner. It's like, oh, well, how can we just erase it? Because
yeah, to me, that's
kill somebody and let's bring him back. It's just that.
To me, that's the same as having a whole movie and then in the end they sit up in bed and go, oh, it was just a dream. You know, like where none of it had any stakes. Like if you could just redo everything, nothing has stakes.
Yeah. Well, I think the reason why this works well in comparison to something like that is it comes with consequences. They didn't just go, wake up, and then it all starts over again. He, in a sense, did the wakes up, but nobody knows who he is. Like so literally everybody knows who Spider-Man is, but nobody knows who Peter Parker is. And they even show you that a couple times, like when he's moving in at the end of the film into the apartment, he puts a box down, and inside of it is it's a guide to getting your GED.
Right.
Like he doesn't even have an education anymore, according to the world. It's like he's literally starting. Not only did he lose all of these loved ones, but he's literally starting from ground zero in society, in culture, and having to redo all that. So it's just the depth of the loss was very difficult. It was very touching.
I was trying to put off talking and exposing loopholes, but that's a big one to me in the way that the first time Doctor Strange does the spell, Peter Parker is like, oh, and Aunt May needs to remember. Oh, and MJ and all this stuff. And Doctor Strange is putting that into the spell, but then it gets overloaded. And then he blames Peter Parker, which is funny because you're the wizard, dude. Like, just don't listen to him.
Yeah.
Right. But at the end when he does it, like, couldn't Doctor Strange just say, okay, I'll allow myself to remember, and then you come back and find me, and then we can go through and like fix MJ and fix Ned.
Yeah, I think.
Or at least I could tell the rest
or
of the
have
Avengers.
a 2-minute conversation before you actually.
Yeah, or that was my other one. Like pull out your cell phone.
Okay, let's do it right now.
Video.
Let's go.
Yeah.
No discussion, no nothing. I'm an adult. You're a kid. Sounds good. Let's do it.
I think the conclusion that I came to was that it's the difference between hitting clear versus all clear.
Mm-hmm.
He needed to hit all clear. Basically, the spell had gone so awry and so crazy that if any aspect of it wasn't all cleared, that there was the risk of the fabric of space-time and the multiverse breaking and everything going kaput. So it'll be interesting to see, though, because technically then, are people allowed to remember who he is without it potentially risking?
I think, like Dave said, like they've written themselves in a corner. If nobody remembers, that means Tony Stark never remembered. You know, Happy at the end.
He
obviously.
knows Spider-Man.
They know Spider-Man.
They all know Spider-Man. That was the thing that I had to come to terms with.
It's like not thinking.
He's still part of the Avengers. He's still going to be on call for Avengers duties because he's Spider-Man, right?
It's like not thinking through a plot line like the blip. When you bring everybody back, it's like, you remember that guy that crashed a helicopter in the downtown New York with the Nick Fury scene? Well, he was up in the air at that point.
Yeah.
So if that guy blips back in at the exact point, like they're saying, he's going to be, 600 feet in the air over New York, and he's just going to fall.
I would like to think that when he did the snap, he did some sort of special snap where it was like, bring everybody back and put them here.
Well,
like, he did some sort of thing.
I'm saying
everybody
it's
on the
not
ground.
the point. It's not the point.
It's not the point. Yeah, you're overthinking it. Maybe.
Yeah, exactly. You can nitpick it all to death, and that's not what I'm trying to say here. But I'm saying like what you're saying. Well, does that mean? Yeah, if you keep on going, it will all unravel.
Right.
You know.
But imagine being the Avengers where
no story's perfect.
Everybody knows everybody. Everybody knows everybody's alter ego and all this stuff too. And then it's like, who's that guy again? That's Spider-Man. Yeah, but who is he? No one knows.
Yeah.
Right?
Nobody has any clue. Yeah.
Haven't you ever asked him? No.
couldn't you just ask
rude.
him?
Or is it a perpetual thing? Like, can nobody ever know you? Like, what's your name? Peter Parker.
I think they will, right? Because
what if nobody could ever know him?
No, I think they indicated they could. What I didn't understand.
He doesn't use Peter Parker, then he's become Ben Reilly, and then
the reason I asked the question I did is because of what specifically happens with Happy. They make it very clear, I think, that he can go and find people and tell them who he is, right? He had that whole script. He was going to tell Mary Jane, we used to be in love, and my name's Peter Parker. He even tells her, that my name's Peter Parker. And so obviously he can tell people who he is, right? But then he has that scene with Happy, and it's like, why wouldn't he even tell Happy that he's Peter Parker? There's no reason to hide. Happy is...
That's the problem.
They did Happy wrong in the beginning, man. They turned him into a super creep, and that was just a weird...
Yeah, like a love struck super creep. But again, at the end there, when he's talking to him...
I never really liked the whole, your Aunt May's really hot thing. I mean, that was so that's just, in my mind, there was a continuation of it.
It
made natural sense. If he's going to be like that goo goo gaga over her, that he's like literally hitting on her in front of him, then in front of Peter, then he's going to be a blubbering,
But it was more tongue in cheek and funny before, and this time it was more pathetic.
Well, yeah, because he's crying and she broke up with him, and it was like, I don't want to know if Aunt May is like the hot.
But I mean,
aunt
you could have just had
the
weight of that at the end if she died, and if you're going to kill her off anyway, just
allow them to be together.
I will stand by the fact and say that I haven't.
But like you're saying, it's funny.
Again, I gave the film a 93. There's things that I don't like about the film that I'm perfect. I think she was an okay Aunt May. I don't feel like she was a great Aunt May. Because,
I liked her better as time went on.
I liked her better as time went on, but I felt like
she was written not as Aunt May. Like
she wasn't.
It might as well have been her mom. Like there's no.
She was written as an
fostering.
aunt. She was written as an aunt.
She should have been
the relationship
cousin May.
Cousin May, yeah. I don't think that they wrote her in a way that because the thing about Uncle Ben and Aunt May was that they were like people that you respected, that you looked up to, that were ideals of humans, that they weren't perfect, right? Because they were old and they, get a little angry sometimes or something. But she ran this nonprofit that helped homeless people. And Peter was trying to help her with that. And he died, Uncle Bay died sacrificially to try and help somebody. There was so many things about it that they were achieving a higher ideal. So to think that Aunt May is this girl that just casually kind of hooks up with a guy and then kind of breaks up with them and is like, man, she's just kind of like this. And then at the same time, she's also still running the nonprofit and being which people are going to be like, oh, you're being too judgmental of Aunt May or something like that. You're presenting a weird dichotomy.
What bugs me is the very final scene with Happy where he says, well, how did you know May? And Peter says, I can't remember what he says, Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And Happy goes, yeah, me too. And it's like, so what? Did you date Aunt May and Spider-Man was her roommate? And that's what you remember?
No, I think he just wouldn't have ever known that she had
something to the effect. I think Screen
a nephew.
Crush explained it like you'll remember, but it's just like something your eyes just avoid. Even though if I'm looking right at you, you'll just not see that person.
Yeah,
like upstream color.
Maybe he knew. Maybe he knew she had a nephew, but he never thought of meeting him or something like that.
Yeah, like he would have a recollection of a nephew, but just not know him as Peter Parker and not know him as the same guy standing right next to him.
Hopefully people understand what I'm talking about with my Aunt May criticisms.
Yeah, I think so. I'm with Dave,
but I mean, it's just not the same.
If you know she's gonna die, why put Happy through that?
Yeah, I guess that's.
It doesn't add anything to his character other than making him look weaker.
I was okay with it because again, he set himself up for that. He was obviously attracted to her and stuff, and he was hitting on her and very inappropriately at times. And so I was like, okay, well, you kind of deserve it. But I just don't feel like either of them should have ever. I feel like she should have always spurned his advances and been like,
that's better. One way or the other.
Thing,
I loved Uncle Ben. You know what I mean? You're Uncle Peter, and I'm not interested in this random dude.
I got confused until you brought it up earlier in this podcast. So in this iteration of Spider-Man, there was no Uncle Ben, and that story's just so
engraved. Not that we know of.
The story's so engraved in my mind that I just assume it's like if I saw a Batman today and they didn't reference his parents coming out of the opera and getting shot.
Yeah,
I would just assume that still happened. I've been assuming that.
Has she ever referenced him? I don't think she's ever referenced him.
No,
in the
not
films.
at all.
Yeah,
I mean,
I just assumed it still happened. Though.
Yeah.
You don't even know why Peter Parker is staying with Aunt May.
No,
you don't know
they
what
talk about the
his
spider
parents.
very briefly that bit him and then it died. And
But I mean, we don't even know what happened to his parents, right?
no, we don't. And then, I mean, there's been different iterations of the comic where his parents have come back.
That's what I'm saying.
the
You're
dead.
just getting
So-
this universe, and they're opening it up like, in this universe, this is how it happens.
Yeah.
It's Aunt May this time that dies, but
That was my
no-
other kind of
But
gripe.
that's why, again, I said this is a
works,
it's a 3-film origin story.
Yeah.
Because literally the end of the origin, the beginning of Spider-Man comes usually for him, like every time when somebody says to him, with great power comes with great responsibility, and he
it
suffers
works
that
like
loss,
you're
right?
you're trying
That's
to
why this
build
was a
yourself
3-film
up
origin.
to this ideal. You win the lottery right at the beginning of it, and then lose all the money, and then learn the lesson from it.
Yeah.
And then now you're starting to build yourself back up.
Yeah.
It's good, man. It's good.
Yeah, like I said, I gave it a 95. I'm just pointing out things that stood out to me that could have been better.
Yeah,
and that's
agreed.
what put
Yeah.
it into that A+ range.
I
Right?
think Aunt May was, and Happy, that duo right there was a weakness of the film for me. And it didn't really fit, and it didn't add anything. It just kind of added a little bit of like...
It just needed to be consistent through all three of them.
Yeah, I would have been fine
One way or
with
the other.
Aunt May running and having struggles with the nonprofit that she was dealing with and trying to get Peter to come help out and be a part of that. And Happy's around and he's trying to struggle with dealing with the loss of Tony and all the craziness at Stark Enterprises. Like that would have been fine. You know what I mean? I didn't need them to have that weird relationship. But again, I feel like they set it up. So it's not the end of the world bad. It's just kind of a thing that was unnecessary and felt kind of bad, mean-spirited.
It's also a way to write Happy out of the series from here forward, right?
Agreed. Yeah. So let's talk about this though. Probably the biggest
way to write the whole Marvel universe out of Spider-Man.
Pretty much.
And I really think it has something to do with Sony.
Yeah.
And I have a good analogy on
Well,
this. but
that's
I'm
where I was
get
going to
it
go
later.
because I feel like we should talk about for sure the biggest twist, which I had not had spoiled, which was amazing. I had assumed it might take place based upon hints and ideas.
Matt Murdock.
We had no, that was a cool twist, but we had, 2 additional Spider-Mans joining us, Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire.
Wait, are you saying you didn't know that?
I did not. I thought it might happen, but I did not know for sure.
But you heard rumblings or leaks?
I had heard. So here's the thing. A lot of people were saying, well, I had heard, and this was my assumption as well, they have obviously Doc Ock, Green Goblin,
which I only knew
they're
from the
going to be in
trailer.
they're going to be in the film. I knew for that from the trailer. Why wouldn't they also have Spider-Mans, right? If they're going to have the same actor, the same villain from another iteration of Spider-Man, why would they not? That is as far as it went for me.
So
I never had spoiled.
So I talked to my brother last weekend when he saw it later than I did. I mean, after I did. So I was waiting for him to see what he thought. And he was like, and we were just talking about it all together, and he was like, but when Andrew Garfield came in, and then I thought they're going to have Tobey Maguire too. I was like, wait a minute. You didn't know that they were going to have Spider-Man in it? He goes, I didn't know nothing about this film.
Oh, wow.
I was like, you didn't know anything?
Wow.
He said, I knew Doctor Strange was in it. I specifically didn't watch any trailers.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I would have given this movie a 99.998 if I didn't have anything spoiled.
Yeah.
I will say,
I think it really hurt the film.
I think having the two.
Right. Is that Marvel's fault though? I mean, that's the film. It's almost like you're saying that it's the film's fault for having it spoiled.
No, not at all.
Oh, okay.
But I'm saying, the conundrum is like, again, how do you promote a film?
Yeah.
Without giving away.
That's
So
why
you
You might have
away.
done it, but then if you don't promote it well enough to get people to see it, nobody
actually-
goes sees it,
here's
and
the
it's
thing, though.
bombs.
I think
or
they actually had.
you have a Sixth Sense type of situation
this would
where
not have
word of
bombed.
mouth.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's one point. They should have trusted the audience. I mean, to word of mouth. Do you understand how big of a
I
return?
didn't feel like they ruined anything for me by what they put in the trailer, though. Like, I don't feel like anything from the film.
No, Dr. Octopus confirms for me the Spider-Man rumors.
It didn't confirm it. It said that maybe.
I don't even
No,
think
when
they
you
show
have
the what's his name,
for
Alfredo,
me-
or what's his name?
Alfredo?
Alfred
Molina.
Molina. I don't
Yeah.
think they even show him in the trailer. They just
Yeah,
show
they
the
do.
octopus, don't they?
Yeah,
The
they
arm?
do.
They do.
Oh,
In the
yeah.
second one,
They show
do.
his face.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't see the second trailer.
I don't know if they most of the other villains they don't show.
Yeah.
They didn't show. They
They
didn't
show
show
Green
a lot of them.
Goblin's
Yeah.
bomb.
in the mask.
Yeah.
So it could have been anybody.
But like
in the
they had a
mask,
scene
but-
of the footage, I believe, where they actually edited out 2 of the Spider-Mans. They edited out Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire and showed that footage as if it was just the current Spider-Man. I mean, they really did a good job of trying to not leak, because like the thing is you can't, there's going to be leaks, there's going to be spoilers, and they have to show, I mean, Doc Ock, the villains play such a pivotal role in this film. What do you show in a trailer? Like what could they have shown in the trailer?
That's what I'm saying.
Wasn't this the movie
if
where
they didn't have at least one villain?
Wasn't this the
in the
movie
trailer?
where the director said he wasn't going to release a trailer? Wasn't this that movie originally?
Yeah, there was originally
And
an
then it
idea that they
leaked or
weren't going to.
something, and then
Yeah, there
it-
was like hints of like, oh,
Right.
well, they leaked it on purpose.
But maybe Dave's right. Maybe they should have just trusted the audience to go see it and then tell everybody you have to go see this movie.
I agree. Maybe they
Like,
could have
my
done that.
mind
I don't
would've
feel like it
blown.
ruined the film for me though. And
But
anyway,
I mean they're already confirming Michael Keaton in the Flash movie, you know, in terms of the multiverse for the DC universe. So it's like,
I think one of the reasons
Yeah.
I gave it a lower score than I think it's worth is because of the lack of only having 2 Spider-Man. Now, it was a nice surprise to me. I'm
Yeah.
with you. I just only saw the one trailer with Doc Ock and
Yeah.
Goblin.
Mhm.
So they showed up. I think they should have had more Spider-Men come in, kind of like the multiverse cartoon
Yeah.
that Sony did,
Yeah.
the anime one. And I think it solves one of my gripes with this movie is when Electro says, "Oh man, you're Spider-Man? I thought you were going to be black."
Mhm.
And it's like, okay, there is one. His name's Miles, and here he comes. Right?
well,
Like,
no, that's the setup.
they've
for
they've already set that
Miles.
up. Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean the last
yeah,
the last
sure.
film he talks to the guy.
Yeah,
and-
Danny Glover.
But
did
if-
Yeah,
if
and he
my-
talks to him
Miles
on the phone.
Morales.
So we've already tied in that they're going to have a Miles Morales Spider-Man.
I guess my thoughts on that would have been the spell attracts anybody who knows that Peter is Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Who would know that more than Spider-Man / Peter Parker?
Well, he
So
does.
why only have 2 come?
Miles Morales does not know that Peter Parker is Spider-Man right now
That's
in
true.
the current Marvel universe.
But there could have been a lot more Spider-Man.
yeah,
not established ones that would have
No.
given you some.
And they
type
wouldn't
of
be like a-
nostalgia.
There, so that's where you kind of have to. I mean, if you really get into the
and
like,
they're Sony properties.
if you
I guess
really
it's
get
not
into,
like
because here's the thing that
Like Spider-Gwen
the
could have
breaking of at the end where the spell finally breaks out, it shows you that there's other, and in the little teaser, Venom was there. It shows you that there are other Spider-Man related people that might have come to the world, and that there was others that were being prevented from coming.
That's true. Or they weren't in the location. that they
Right.
were all
So
in.
yes, they could have been like, here's like, you know, this Gary Peter Parker that nobody's ever met,
Mhm.
and he fought, you know, this weird other creature that nobody ever's seen before. That could have absolutely been the case, right? But again, you have to give them a little like it's movie magic.
Well, like I said at the beginning of
It's-
this podcast, I'm probably wrong on this because my gut would be to go big,
Yeah.
too big.
it's an
Right?
Yeah.
no,
and they
it's
did
an-
a good
it's
job
an-
of scaling it back
Yeah.
and keeping it.
Yeah, but it's an infinite multiverse, but we can only deal with Sony properties.
Yeah.
You do understand,
Right.
you know,
right.
That's,
And that's a limitation that you kind of just have to give them.
yeah, I wanted them to
You know?
rotoscope the. I don't know if you ever watched the '70s Spider-Man. I cannot remember that guy's name, but
Mm-mm.
I used to watch that religiously. Like it was,
I-
it'd be
no.
on like Sunday afternoon.
That would have been crazy though. Yeah. I mean, if
I
there
mean,
was a
just to
scene
have
where
them
like
in
suddenly
there.
there's like
And you could
30
have gotten
Spider-Mans.
Yeah, just get the electric company Spider-Man from Monday.
Yeah.
I see the blank stares.
I know what you're talking about.
Sesame
I've never
Street.
watched it though. Yeah.
But that was my jam.
There was
back
a
in the
couple
day.
funny parts though with that. I mean, there was like the meme version. Have you ever seen that Spider-Man meme
Yeah,
where it's
yeah.
like all the
Pointing at each
Spider-Mans
other.
pointing at each other?
Yeah, it's from the.
There's
Into
that
the
part,
Spider-Verse,
yeah, where MJ is like, you know, hey Peter, or was it his friend? And then he's like, Peter, me, you, and
Oh,
they're
yeah,
like
they
all
all point,
pointing at each
yeah.
other.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's totally like the meme.
Yeah.
Um,
And the humor is good. Like
yeah,
you were
but
saying.
I
The
feel
part-
like we're focusing a lot on the negative, and this
Yeah.
was such a beautiful experience for me.
I still gave it a 95.
I
That's-
know, but we're
yeah.
talking a lot about the negative sides of it, of
Yeah,
you know
they're-
what they did and didn't include, and how they
they're
included,
glad-
and how they got
um,
spoiled, and it was
Yeah.
such a beautiful thing to me to see them.
Yeah, it still work.
Yeah, because
But again, but like, okay, answer me this: if they start coming after the spell is cast, how is John Jameson in it before all that happens?
well, it's the multiverse, right? And it's been shown that some people can be the same person and be the same person. You know what I mean? Like you can have
That's
J.
true.
Jonah
And this one was
Jameson
more-
is this multiverse is J. Jonah Jameson, and then a different part of the multiverse, he's a different actor. Could be Jane Jonah Jameson. It could be who knows, right?
But in this one, he was more of
very loose.
He was more of an Alex Jones conspiracy type, whereas in the other ones that we're used to, he's like the head of the Daily Bugle.
Right, because they showed you in Loki that it can be an old man, it can be a kid, it can be an alligator. It's more of like an identity that can transfer to different. Like there's like a soul or something,
I'm
and that
just saying,
transfers.
like after saving half the universe, is someone really going to believe that Spider-Man's a menace? You know, like it's.
I guess. I mean, he was such a small part of saving the universe. You know what I mean? Nobody had a camera during the big climactic Endgame battle. Who's going to be showing the camera footage?
2023.
In Wakanda, they had a camera that they said what did somebody have a drone? They were flying it around like, look, there goes Spider-Man with the gauntlet. He passed it off to the ladies. Looks like the ladies are gonna take the gauntlet home. Like
to be
I'm
fair,
talking about Battle of New York or Infinity War opening sequence.
They're running for their life.
Also, Iron Man's helmet's always recording, so don't count out.
How are they going to get that footage?
9/11.
How are they going to get that footage?
9/11 footage. They still captured it.
Right, but okay, so you have competing footage, right? He has footage from maybe the news showing him fighting and doing good things. But then you also have footage from another guy showing that and him saying, kill all the people, right? So it's like you have two differing perspectives on, and that's always been the thing. For the most part, Spider-Man has always been loved by the people, but J. Jonah Jameson has always hated him and had something out for him. So, and that was even in the movie. I mean, you had when he went into his high school, they set up like a memorial for him, which was hilarious. Like that little setup. I mean, what's his name? The teacher had like photoshopped himself. I don't know if you caught that into the picture with him and MJ. Like, and then, but you had other people that were like, you know, you killed him. You killed all the people. He was right. So I think it's.
Also, I've always been like on the iffy side of things my whole life. But like, you know, when you watch the video that, what's his name? Gyllenhaal, whatever his Magneto, not Magneto, Mysterio sent in. It's clearly edited. You know what I mean? Like it's a bad cut. Like they did it on purpose. It's a bad cut and it's a bad, but just like everybody in the world completely believes it.
Not everybody. There's some people that do and some people that don't. Right. I mean, it's.
I know they did that. I just like that.
So a lot of people might look at that and say that like, oh, that's attacking a very specific type of individual. I think that's more just attacking generally where we are as a culture. That like there's so many different attacking perspectives on different sides of it.
And then no one
like,
really.
Yeah, J. Jonah Jameson, is more like an Alex Jones type person. But I didn't take that as like a direct, like, you know, you're a horrible, awful person for.
No, not at all. I just, I mean, that's a very common thing to be now as an internet superstar spokesperson with opinions.
Yeah,
right.
It is.
I mean,
and
we're doing it right now for a
level of commentary. Yeah, I do want to come back to this though because I feel like it's like so negative. The fact that both of these Spider-Man were in the film was such a beautiful thing for me because of the way specifically, not just how they handled the characters. Like they weren't just like a Spider-Man character in this film. They were their Spider-Man from their version of Spider-Man.
Right.
You know, you had Tobey Maguire, who's the polite kind of meek. And he jumps to attack Andrew Garfield when they first meet or chew this web just to make sure because he's probably a little bit jaded at this point. But like he's kind of the meek, he's the quiet. And then you have Andrew Garfield, who's like kind of the fast talking, goofy kind of crazy guy. And then you had the one Spider-Man who's been a part of the Avengers, who's kind of like the coordinator because he knows, again, what it's like to be in a team. And each of them had their moment where they got kind of their due because
redemption. All
three of the Spider-Mans now, the first two, I will say, ended in such a bad fashion. Like they kind of both went out with a whimper. The first, iteration with Tobey Maguire, the third movie was a very hard watch. It left you in very shaky ground with him and MJ. And you were kind of like, oh, that was just not very fun, right? And you get to find out, oh, they kind of did make it work. And it's been awkward. And, he's still struggling with things. But, there's happiness. He's found happiness there. And then Andrew Garfield had his moment with MJ where he, saves her. And it's a way for him to, come to terms.
For Gwen.
And forgive himself. And he learned from that experience. And it's like he's treated in such a nice fashion. And there's moments where they embrace each other. And the really funny part where he's like, I love you guys. And they're like, okay, yeah, thanks. Mm-hmm. That was really funny too. But they're treated in such a good fashion. Yeah. And it's, as somebody that's a fan of the Spider-Man films, it's not like they have to be perfect. And they're not in this film. They make mistakes. They do bad things. But they're treated respectfully. And that's such an
and they
important thing.
treated the role respectfully, which I thought was a big
Nobody
thing.
phoned it in, you know?
Because I feel like you used to be the top. You were the Spider-Man.
Right.
And now there's a younger, better looking person. I mean, it happens all the time in Hollywood. Somebody younger comes in, somebody, you know,
Absolutely.
and all this stuff and takes a role that could have been yours theoretically, but they played their characters the way they would have and they took it in stride. I do think seeing all three of them together, it only makes Tom Holland stand out more as the right choice.
It does, yeah.
Right. But the other two were equally great in this, I thought. And
they were great for the Spider-Man that they were supposed to be.
Right.
And the way that they kind of all embrace each other, especially at the end, and he's saying thank you, and it's almost like he's thanking them for the road that they paved and what they had done before he took on the Spider-Man role. And it was just it was a nice thing. And it's like they've wrapped up a lot of the evil characters, like a lot of the character, which that's a little bit murky how some of that worked. That's another reason why I ranked it a little lower. It's like, so when did I thought he died, so you brought him in from that moment, or was it? It's like, how do you bring two evil, bad characters from the Spider-Man universe that existed at two different times? So it's like the spell kind of transcended a time. Like, it would have made sense if it went to this universe at a specific moment and anybody who knew Peter came, but it was just anybody that knew him at any time could have ended up coming. And it was like, they never really explained that in my mind. Like, how if they were dead, how they came back prior to being dead. And
he just said,
because it wasn't I
was drowning.
Right. It wasn't like,
here.
Here's where we are in the timeline.
No,
with
If
Andrew Garfield,
Green Goblin died in 1991, right before his death, that's when he gets pulled. But that exact same time, because Peter Parker is alive in 2023, that's when he is pulled.
Right, but obviously I'm saying the timelines don't line up, right? So the timeline with the current film wasn't pulling Hobgoblin or, Sandman or something at the exact same time as where we are in the current timeline. It was jumping through time to pull all these different villains because they didn't all exist at the same time.
I can't even remember if Sandman died or not. I don't think he died.
He ended on like a good place with Spider-Man. Like,
which is why he shows up helpful this time.
But
which is why initially
he would just
kind
be
of
older.
Helpful. Yeah. So it's like,
and then can we talk about like how good Alfred Molina and Dafoe look?
I was going to bring up Alfred Molina, because imagine you play a character in a quote unquote silly superhero movie.
Yeah.
And then 13 years later, or whatever it's been, they call you back in.
25 or something.
They call you back in to reprise the role. I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I don't think we've ever seen something like that.
No, but my friends were saying, they de-aged him. I was like, no, I watched an interview on whatever, YouTube thing.
Yeah.
They look that freaking young.
Yeah.
Like, Molina looks younger.
Yeah.
And Dafoe always looked the same.
William Dafoe hit a certain age, and it's like, you're never going to get, he's got so many wrinkles on his face already. It's like
he's just Steve Buscemi's the same way.
Yeah.
You're always going to look the same.
Yeah. Oh, the thing was specifically with his character with Doc Ock, I heard, is that he actually enjoyed doing this acting job more this time, because originally when they did, because graphics and special effects have gone so far and advanced so far that it's a very different filming experience for a lot of these people. So when they originally had him as Doc Ock, they had all of his arms on with strings. And so he's interacting with like puppets, and he's like, and all of them are moving around. This one, they had him on some sort of a crane. And so they would literally just move him around, and he had no arms. And so he's just standing there, and he would just float from spot to spot. And I'm like imagining how difficult that would be to do the acting job that he did. But
that's funny.
Yeah.
And then effects wise, I thought the Spider-Mans themselves kind of looked cheap in some scenes.
I thought they looked all right.
I like that they gave them their own signature style outfit. They were all wearing the Spider-Man costume from their...
Yeah, that's the thing. They did their research, right? Yeah. They got every single outfit the way that... even the villains had matching outfits for... Except, there was minor updates here and there.
Yeah, but the Goblin... Norman Osborn, whatever, they went super retro with it, with a torn purple cloak.
They went a classic Goblin,
I thought it was cool.
Classic Green Goblin, where he had the purple hood and the...
When they smashed that stupid mask that completely destroys Dafoe's performance in the first film. That was my big critique of the first film, but I loved it. But I was like, he's like the Green Goblin personified. Yeah. Just put some makeup on him, and they put that huge mask over him where it looks ridiculous.
That was, I think, one of the things that I loved about this film so much, is that there were tie-ins, but it never felt like they were just there to make a cameo.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody played a role, significant role, maybe not a big one. Specifically, probably the smallest role would be like Lizard Man.
I was gonna say
like,
Jamie Foxx too,
or maybe Jamie Foxx a
or
little
whatever it
bit. But they all play at least a role in the film, and it feels like they're there for a somewhat significant reason.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was good. It was like, it never felt like phoned in. Like, hey, we're just gonna have this guy do this cameo, and he's gonna show up and shoot an electric bolt, and then he's gonna get defeated, and that's it. And I think that's the difference between nostalgia for nostalgia's sake and nostalgia for, I mean, that's one of the reasons why I rated Ghostbusters, if we're going to talk about Afterlife, not to spoil it. If you haven't listened to that review, go listen to it. But a lot of the nostalgia in that movie was just like, hey, remember when they had, Slimer?
Mm-hmm.
Here he is. It's like, that was the nostalgia. This level of nostalgia is, we're going to include things into the plot that you know and are familiar with, but we're going to give them a role to play where they have to be beaten or something has to be accomplished because of what they're doing in the story. Most significantly so, obviously, would be Green Goblin. I mean, he ends up killing off Aunt May in such a horrible fashion. I mean, he ends up being really, I think, the reason that Spider-Man becomes Spider-Man. I mean, up until this point, he was Spider-Man in name, but he hasn't embraced, the story hasn't really embraced those elements of, I think, what makes a true Spider-Man, which is dealing with that responsibility, that weight of your power. And it's directly through his actions that we see, like, okay, that's why. Because if he hadn't done that, then for the most part, Spider-Man would have probably saved everybody. They all would have gone back to their own universes. Spider-Man would have continued probably living this more naive life. He would have gotten into MIT and blah, 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 blah. So, I don't know.
One of the good payoffs, I think, is that I don't like the scene where all three Spider-Men are sharing their sad tales and crying, or maybe it just went on too long.
Okay.
I don't know why that bugged me. Too like high school kind of.
You just don't care about people, Ross.
I do. It just felt odd. But anyway,
which part of it though? Because they kind of share a bit of their backstory at different times, right?
Well, there's just one scene where they're all like in different heights, like they're all perched.
I mean, when he's on the roof dealing with the loss of Aunt May, I really
that brings
found that
it all. I mean, that was like a powerful.
It was fine. I just think it went on too long or something.
No, when he finished the line about responsibility, man, that was beautiful.
But anyway, that sets up really nicely. Then when he gets Norman Osborn down and just Spider-Man, Tom Holland is wailing on him.
Yeah,
and they like film that so well. Yeah. It looked so. And then he picks up the surfboard or whatever, his
glider, with the knives. Yeah. It was such a clever way to do that because he even says, Andrew Garfield, I believe, says earlier, like, after
I'm this way
a certain point, I stopped pulling my punches.
Right.
And you can see earlier in the film when he's hitting Hobgoblin and they're in Happy's apartment or condo, whatever it is, and he's hitting him and he's just like laughing. He's like enjoying the fierceness and the attacks, but it's not really doing anything to him. And then it's the end of the film. He's lost, his parent figure, his support and love, and he feels like it's a big part of his own fault for doing it, and he's at that dark place, and you can see that this is hurting the Green Goblin, and it's like, it's because the thing Andrew Garfield says, it really feels like he's not pulling his punches. Like, prior to that, he's like, he's wanting to defeat somebody, but he's not wanting to destroy somebody. And here he's like, he wants to destroy the Goblin, and he's not pulling any punches, and it's like, dang, like, you can really tell, like, there's a difference there, and it has a weightiness and the story that they're telling. And I think really
it was a great payoff.
Yeah. The setups and the payoffs for all that. And it had levels, it's like you felt like he dealt with the loss of his aunt, but then he gets like brought back into it and he has to deal with it again. And then finally he really gets, and that's the beautiful thing about it, is like, you can see how the theme of the movie is, it's like the role of love and support and being there for each other and sacrifice. It's like the role of sacrifice. And it's like Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man was willing to literally put his life on the line by stopping our iteration of Spider-Man, put himself in front of it to prevent him from stabbing the Goblin, even though he knew why he was doing it, because he knew what it meant and he knew what he needed to do there to prevent him from going to a really bad place because he's been down that path. He's danced on the street, very silly. Right. I'm sorry, that's a joke from Spider-Man 3. He's done like the weird like dun dun. Dun,
I do remember that now.
Yeah, he's been to that dark place. He's been the emo Spider-Man. He doesn't want him to go there. So it was very impactful.
Yep.
It's like I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting
it's like you said,
a Marvel level
expecting them to show up, kind of throw some punches. Right. It's goofy.
And you needed some help and and you have the Spider-Man,
but
from
so it shows you how well thought out it was, that everybody had a role to play. They were there for a reason.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And it was very touching at times. I mean, it was like one of the saddest things to think about, that he's willing to just sacrifice. He's stepping in the footsteps of who he's seen previously, Iron Man in particular, Tony Stark, willing to lay down his life for the greater good. And he's willing to do that himself because he knows that's what's needed. And it's like, that's what superhero movies aspire to be, right? The story of good people being selfless and doing something that has a huge impact, even if they don't get the thanks and the accolades that they deserve.
The love. Yeah.
Right. The love. And that's here. It's like Dwight said, everyday people that wake up and put on a mask and
Dwight Schrute.
Yeah, Dwight Schrute. Yeah. Yeah.
No, so I guess like all those points are why I keep going back to it, but this is the level of Marvel movie I expect at this point.
Yeah. And it comes with some bad things we talked about. I think a little bit of it is
Venom.
What was that? The bad thing? Yeah. Oh, okay. I mean, I'm excited to see if they do bring Venom. I mean, they've set it up now, so obviously they have.
But I mean, so did you watch the second Venom? Did you see that end credit scene, even if you didn't watch it?
I didn't see the second Venom film. No, I did not.
So you didn't know about that scene?
I did not know about that scene. No.
Oh, where they're transported into the MCU?
No, I did not know that Venom was going to be in this until I saw it in No Way Home.
Which again happens at the same time as the ending of the second Spider-Man film. Okay.
Yeah.
So again, why is he transported at that time? I mean, these are just plot points.
There's a bit of a gray
shoehorn him into that film, into that universe, and literally not use him at all. I thought the big reveal would have been Venom.
Yeah.
And he was literally, spoilers, at a bar drinking the entire time.
Yeah, I didn't have a problem with that.
I guess for me,
how are you going to include? Why you can only include so much, right?
Well, what it does is it gives the Venom character the ability to be played by somebody else.
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather have Venom have his own story. Like, why would I want him to be shoehorned in to this movie and play like a fifth villain or sixth villain? However many villains they had,
I'm not even saying anything. I'm saying
instead of just giving, they gave him the setup for his own. That's the thing. He's going to have his own, I think his own standalone film where he's like one of the, but if not the primary villain, he's one of the primary.
It won't be Tom Hardy. Is that the actor?
No, it shouldn't be,
because he goes back, but he left the symbiote, which means it'll get.
Which you have to. This is where it gets all crazy with the multiverse, right? There could be a Tom Hardy in this universe. I mean, it could be him, but it probably won't be.
To me, this gets into the Sony multiverse. It's Sony wanting to be a part of the Marvel universe.
Yeah, so let's sell you all of our characters.
Well, I don't think Sony dictated Venom being there at the end of the film.
I think
they said, well, we want to do a Venom. My speculation is they want to do a Venom film, but they can't use Tom Hardy because of the Sony licenses or something like that. So they're going to do what they can to bring him into the film briefly, do a cameo, and then create their own Venom that's under their own rules and their own plans.
Right. My thing is, I think that they negotiated that deal to include their franchise in the Marvel universe. And Feige's basically saying, okay, because we can't sacrifice Tom Holland as Spider-Man. If we lose him, that's a huge thing, right?
Yeah.
So we'll allow it, just not acknowledge you. Like, he's in there, but we ain't actually going to do anything.
Right.
I mean, I don't know. I can't
So my analogy at the end, this is harsh.
Yeah.
My analogy is Sony is the Flash Thompson of the MC universe. All he wants is
to be
Spider-Man to say you're my best friend. but Spider-Man doesn't. Peter Parker doesn't actually give a crap. Let me finish.
I agree.
Doesn't give a crap about Flash. Will do it to get something out of it. You know, I can't remember why he said he would. You know, at the time, but that's what Sony's saying. Let me be in the universe, and we'll extend the contract out. Sony looks at those movies and like, yeah, no, that's not our brand. You know,
maybe it's possible. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. No, I'm with you. I think that makes a ton of sense. Like, he is the guy that wrote Flashpoint, the book. What's he say? His name is Flash something.
Yeah, which is another DC reference. That's kind of funny. You know how they're mentioning.
Yeah, they mentioned Flashpoint kind of as a joke.
But they mentioned Batman and Superman in Eternals.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I agree.
I don't know. I don't know all the reasons. I mean, the ins and outs of their contract with Sony on Spider-Man, I don't know. All I know is that there's no reason in my mind why Sony would ever not want Spider-Man to continue to be in the Marvel Universe. I mean, this was the biggest opening they've had since 2019 on a film. They've probably made so much money from this. Why would they?
Do we even know
why
the
would
budget?
they start trying to dictate what Marvel?
They probably made more money off this Disney Spider-Man than they did off of all the Minions.
What was the budget for this movie? Do you know?
I don't know.
It's got to have ballooned out because you have to you promote it into the late. Well, no, they didn't even have a trailer until
I don't know, but even if it was 300 million, they're already at 600 million worldwide.
Yeah,
and I'm sure this will probably.
I'm so happy.
Break a billion.
That's just,
you know,
it's just
with
awesome
the Christmas weekend coming up. You know, a ton of families are going to go and see stuff.
tomorrow, man.
Yeah. So all I'm saying is I get your point. I'm not saying that might not have been something that they had requested, but I think they had to continue the Spider-Man story somehow, right? The most well-recognized villains, besides like Doc Ock, maybe the Sandman, Green Goblin, is Venom.
That's my only
right.
real,
So they're going to include him. So they probably had a conversation with him at some point and said, "Hey, we want to include Venom. How do we go about doing that?" Maybe Sony said, "You got to do this way." Maybe they said, "We're open. What do you think?" And you know, them at Marvel were like, "Well, we want to do it our way. So we'll do this tie-in using the multiverse, but we just want the symbiote. And so that way the symbiote can infect the person that we want to be Venom, or because truly Venom is supposed to originally go to Eddie Brock, right? And then it goes to Spider-Man after Eddie, or is it Spider-Man first and then Eddie?
Yeah, maybe
Spider-Man
actually,
first,
right.
Maybe that's
it goes
what they're
to Spider-Man
doing.
first. Right, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Eventually it's going to hit Spider-Man, and then they'll have their own version of Eddie Brock
right.
in the Marvel universe, and we haven't seen anybody that could be yet.
Right.
But I mean, there's little tie-ins that tell me that there's more to continuation story, not just the symbiote. If you look at Mary Jane in the last scene, she has that necklace on that Spider-Man gave her, that Peter Parker gave her, the broken thing that he got her in the last film. She's wearing that. So it tells me that there's still a connection that's there. And then this is kind of a funny tie-in. I didn't notice this until I watched that video. The cup that she gives him, that says that thing about, you know,
Thanos was right.
We're happy to serve you or something like that.
Oh, the Greek cup or whatever.
The Greek cup from the coffee shop. That's been in like 4 different films. And different films, it's that cup with that exact script on it and everything has been in a bunch of other films and stuff. So yeah. So I feel like
I kind of took it as like he was moving on. He gets the apartment. Like maybe if they do another Spider-Man, it'll be a Gwen Stacy or something else, think so. Right? It won't be MJ. Yeah. And also she's become they both become such big actors now that like she might just be moving on too. She might be too big for that role.
She might be. Right. Yeah. She has got, I mean, a lot of other projects I'm sure she's wanting to take on stuff. Yeah.
I mean, that's going to take forever to film.
Yeah, pretty much. I got to go to the desert, man. So,
I do. So I like to watch, with the story in mind, because we're both authors, Joel and I. This is the best way to tell this possible story, I think.
Just kidding.
I thought of one other way that I would have liked, which would have been when Doctor Strange was doing the spell.
Yeah.
He could have been like, all right, the spell's done. And then realize they forgot one person to exclude from the list of people that would forget, which would be Peter Parker himself.
Oh, okay.
So imagine like you have a Spider-Man without a Peter Parker.
That would be interesting.
That would be an interesting way to do the story too.
Yeah. So it's kind of a reverse version of that.
So those would have been the 2 acceptable ones. And I like the one they picked. And,
So overall, I think it was a good story. It's not without its flaws in different areas, but I enjoyed things. There's some interesting tie-ins to where things could be headed with the Doctor Strange universe as well. I mean, Marvel universe, but Doctor Strange story as well. Just with, they talked about like the snow. They showed you the snow that had gotten in there, that there's inklings that might have to do with like a breaking apart of kind of the multiverses. The different, like that different channeled mirror thing is kind of like letting in different things, and it's stuff starting to break apart. Like he's tampered too far,
right?
With things.
I do think that was more of a joke. Like they couldn't shut one of those sling ring doors open or something. It was in the Antarctica or something.
Yeah, that was the joke, but it just might have a deeper purpose.
I did like how they explained the multiverse, and quickly it's like every science fiction movie before this, when they talked about wormholes, they would take a piece of paper and draw 2 dots and then fold it in half and shove a pencil through it.
Yeah.
And that was like always how they explained wormholes.
Yeah.
And this one, they're like, well, the multiverse? How do you know? And he goes, you know Peter Parker, right? Yes. Is that him? No. Multiverse. And I was like, that's brilliant, because they can just use that over and over and over again, right?
Yeah, I thought it was good too.
The smartest way to explain a multiverse.
That is true. I thought that the way that they introduced the Spider-Mans was kind of cool too. Although Ned getting magic powers out of nowhere was a little...
It feels like Shang-Chi.
Yeah.
Where she becomes... At least he wasn't the hero.
I actually like that, because I thought it... I mean, he wasn't perfect at it, and he could barely do it, and then he did it once, and then couldn't shut the door, which added to more chaos. I thought it was funny.
It was forced.
Shut it now. It's like, oh, okay.
It was forced. It was just on the cusp of unbelievably forced, because of the whole
his mom.
The fact that he let Doctor Strange had to travel to an entirely different country to learn how to just do that, and it took him like months of training to figure out how to open a portal, and he's able to just like do a handshake and open it because he's got the right equipment. Again, it feels a little forced. I'm not saying that it's completely unbelievable. Maybe he's just...
Did Doctor Strange take that back from him?
He did, yeah. But he comments on him being able to do the portals.
I love that scene where it's like mental note.
And there's also on his... where he lives, I think it's his grandma or somebody, maybe it's his mom, Ned's parent figure, wherever he lives, has that board with all the weapons on it, which shows that maybe there's a tie-in to Shang-Chi, like maybe his family has some sort of like relatives in common with that group or something. Like that could be...
I liked it though. Every time he did something, you'll see the little sparks like, whoa, what was that? And then it just builds up.
I think that where you're coming from, and where I'm saying I'm coming from at least, is with anything that's in a film like that, you have to ask yourself, is it there because it's warranted by where the story is, or is it because they need something convenient plot point?
To me, it starts,
and it's on the cusp of just being a complete convenient plot point, because he's never, if in the very first film he had said something along the lines of like, oh yeah, well, I've always been magic, and he like tried to do a magic trick and it failed, then I'd be like, okay, they've been building this point all along.
Yeah, but I equate it to like, oh my god, we need to get in touch with somebody,
right? Yeah,
but
and it can't be Doctor Strange doing that.
But
and they can't have anybody
the sling ring would equate to a cell phone, and it's like, even if I didn't know how to use a cell phone, maybe I could just unlock it and start
just do
using
your
it.
thing, and it would just open up, right? Yeah,
like
To me, it starts to feel. It feels too much like,
it's not like they said, we need to open a portal to an alternate universe and pull all the Spider-Men in. It's like, find me Peter Parker, and then that's what happened. It's not like it's something they planned.
Yeah.
So I liked how it happened.
I think Ned getting powers to me just feels like that show True Blood, which started off with like, hey, look, there's vampires. And then it was like, but you're a witch and you're a shapeshifter. Yeah. And this guy's a something. And like by the end of it, every character had some unique ability. Yeah. And it's like, we don't need that. Like the reason Ned is great is because Ned is just a normal human sidekick.
Right. He wasn't something he didn't need to have.
So that's why I said Shang-Chi, because his friend, whatever her name is.
Here's what I would say. It doesn't feel as bad as I think what happened in Shang-Chi, where it's like all of a sudden she can just have these magical powers or whatever with like the bow and all this stuff, because that was so obviously like she had another purpose in the film that she served and she could have been, and that was fine. And they needed to just give her more to do. So they just gave her something that just had a little bit more for her, so she was more significant. This was like, they need something specifically to happen in the film. How does that happen? Well, Ned is the most likely candidate, right?
But it
You
starts to
can't
feel
do
like-
that for MJ, right? Because she's MJ. That would be insane.
But it starts
when
to feel like Heroes then. You ever watch that show?
No, I agree.
Where by the end of it,
Yeah.
every single character had a
I agree.
superpower.
Yeah, because you're like, maybe MJ would develop
Right.
some sort of mutant
So
power. or
speaking of
something.
MJ, I love that they made her nicer and happier and more feminine.
I agree. Yeah.
And more optimistic, and I think it kind of rounded out that character.
Yeah, she was a
I just
much more
wanted to get that in
likable
quick.
person
Yeah.
in this film than the other two. The other two, you're kind of
But
like,
she's standoffish, and when she commits to that relationship, she can be more open and honest. I think it's a natural progression.
I think they let her
Yeah.
wear
Yeah.
more makeup this time. It seemed like, or
she's more of like a loving, supportive person to Peter as well, which is like what you would want to see in a
yeah, like
relationship.
beyond the physical.
And it made sense, right? Yeah, it's like they support each other, they care about each other. The first two was kind of just like, well, they find each other attractive and they're around each other a lot, and
yeah,
that was like it.
'cause she was really
so
rich
awkward.
in the last two. So
She was?
pun to the earlier.
She was rich.
Never mind.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, okay.
That's a R.
It'll probably be.
R-I.
No, there was
probably
like
be,
there was like a lot of
edited
other.
out.
There was
Never
another
mind. I thought
funny
it was funny.
tie-in.
It was funny.
I forget the name of the girl from the first film that he went to prom with. And then her dad turned out to be the bad guy.
The vulture.
Yeah, the vulture. She's actually, if you're looking closely, there's a scene where I think it's Peter's going down to go to Doctor Strange's house, and he goes by a newsstand, and there's like a People magazine, and it's got that girl that he went to prom with on the cover, and it says he's always been a liar. So it's like she's still in it, like she's still a part of that
Funny.
story too. Yeah, so there's just like a lot of neat little touches and stuff.
So I'd referenced the goatee dye earlier. When
Yeah.
I see stuff like that in movies, I think, wow, they put a ton of thought into this.
Mhm.
And it makes me appreciate a movie more because every single inch of that thing has been thought over, considered, redefined. I mean,
100%. I mean, the fact that Doctor Strange is wearing the sweater from his alma mater, and then they go in the basement and there's a picture of the same college, the alma mater. And then the fact that they're even going to MIT, which is where Tony
mhm.
went to school and graduated from. It's like a tie-in, like, oh, well, obviously he's going to want to go to the same school that the guy that he looks up for
Mhm.
went to. You know, there's a lot of cool tie-ins.
Or as soon as Peter Parker identity gets leaked or whatever, they cut to that Flash character who now has a new look. He's got the dyed hair. Like he
Yeah.
knows that he's going to be on TV.
Yeah.
They don't ever say, oh, you changed your hair. It
Yeah.
just happens.
Like, so one of the things to me that made very little sense initially, that I was like, well, that's a little, and then I looked into it, I was like, okay, well, the nanomachine thing, how Doc Ock, the nanomachines just kind of join with the arms that he's
Mhm.
wearing, felt a little forced, right? It's like, oh, well, because it's a machine, it's metal. And if you actually go back and watch Spider-Man 2, when he's talking, he actually talks about how the neural connection that he's using with the arms is a nanotechnology.
Oh, weird.
Yeah. So
it
it's
just blended
actually,
together.
they blended together. So it's like there's elements of real intelligence that are at play in this film that
Oh,
you're just like, wow,
well,
that's like some depth there.
Yeah,
you know?
I thought you were gonna say like you two being writers. How did you write in a book in a week? But
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it was like, and even the
and
technology,
published and printed
No, it
and
happens all the
solicited
time.
and
even the technology that they're coming up with to like cure, all the bad guys, the one with Doc Ock has got those 3 things that like slide in. That was in the original, like all of the pins go
the vertebrae.
yeah, and like slide into them. And it's just like, again, they just did such an effective job of really respecting the source material. It doesn't feel like they're like, well, we need just something to happen here, so we're just going to have this happen. And
Yeah, they kind of
Who
do with
cares?
the well. What we really need is a make anything machine. Oh, we got one already.
but they
Fabricator.
had the fabricator
Yeah.
in the second
one.
film
They did, yeah.
where
on the
he
plane.
fabricates his own outfit, and
Yeah,
so it's like
But I'm saying
he knows how to use
it
it,
kind of is, but
and it
kinda
already
is.
exists.
Yeah.
So it's just
I did like.
again,
I did like
it's well
when,
thought through.
The nanobots or whatever, he gets a suit ripped in the chest,
Right.
and Doc Ock is going to stab him, and then the nanobots from the mask move
Stripped
to
to
the
his chest, right?
I
to
like
save
never
him.
even considered that a possibility,
Right.
and that was super.
And
cool.
then
It's
when
like a
he
max
threw it
amount,
back
right?
on
Yeah.
something without the suit, it was just on his chest. Did you see that?
Well, then
Yeah.
I loved when they sent him out, and MJ and Ned are helping from the basement,
Yeah.
the command center that Ned likes. But anyway, like the cell phone is just duct taped to Spider-Man's chest.
Yeah.
I don't know if you caught that.
Yeah.
Like,
Agreed.
like what would kids do? Like we need
Yeah.
to be able to
And
see.
I didn't
that was really
realize
funny.
it was-
Yeah, just duct tape.
I didn't realize that the suit turned inside out.
I didn't realize that either.
Yeah.
Why was that?
Yeah, I don't know.
because it had those green stains on it or something.
But why did they turn it inside out?
Because he had the stains. I don't know. I don't know. I didn't
really catch.
I'm sure there was a reason for it, but I mean, there's like some of that where it's like obvious that that's not that. Like, I noticed, right? There was the same thing. Like, it comes from his head to cover his chest. I mean, in that circumstance, you would have just taken it from like your back. Like, truthfully,
or leg,
or your butt,
abdomen.
You know, right. Something that's like not in any danger because it's behind you, but it's also not going to reveal your identity to a person you're trying to hide.
That's true.
So again, it's your movie. You know, you gotta.
Yeah,
because that's when he goes, "You're not Peter."
Right.
The head. Yeah.
It's like, why wouldn't you just go like, well, he's not going to attack my butt. I can just go bloop, you know, and cover from
Some
there.
would say the butt is the most vulnerable part.
I guess to a guy that has giant pokey things. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. It's just some of that is you have to give them a little bit of like, okay, yeah. We have to move the plot along a little bit. But I thought it was a clever way that they did it. It wasn't just like he ripped off his head. And you're like, but he's got nanobots, and like, well, don't think about that too much. You just we had to reveal his identity. Somebody like washed it off with a hose.
Little things, like trying to brush off the sand with more sand, on the couch.
That was funny.
Yeah, that was funny.
And my favorite scene was like, wait, you could just be wearing a spider suit. Prove to your Spider-Man. He just hops up and
I love it when he just grabs it, and she's like, crawl around a bit.
I'm not gonna.
Well, anybody can do that. Yeah, crawl around. He's like, I'm not gonna crawl. That was my favorite.
Nana wants to know if you can get the cobweb.
Yeah, I thought it would have been funnier if she just walked up to him and handed him like a Swiffer thing. That would have been funnier. She's like, he's like, okay, and he like crawls over and does that. That would have been funnier to me. But I mean, it was cute and clever. It's like, how are you gonna have a guy prove they're Spider-Man?
That's one because my mom, my friend Chris is like 6'2" or something, 6'1". And
which is tall to us.
Yeah, like I'm not that tall. I'm average height, but would always say when Chris came over, "Can you get the cobweb with the little Swiffer thing?" And he would do it for it's funny. So that was like really funny to me.
That would have been fun. I mean, because if you'd sewn her earlier in there cleaning, and she had like the Swiffer thing, and she couldn't reach it, and then they're like, and he's like, "Mom, we're trying to do a thing right now," and she's like, "I have to clean.
And also,
and then, like he comes out and he's like.
In modern movies, like every second matters, right? They cut stuff if it doesn't fit the plot or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So the grandma goes on this huge rant in a different language with no subtitles, right? Yeah. And then he's like, well, "What'd she say?" And that just goes, "She wants to know if you can get the cobweb."
Yeah.
But it was like a 30-second speech, right?
It was pretty long. You think she's talking something deep?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, she just wants to see if we can get the cobweb. Yeah.
So
I thought that was cool though. The moment the moment that they were in the kitchen. I still didn't know for sure if I didn't know, right? I was assuming maybe they were going to be in it. I also looked over at Melanie and said, this is where it's going to happen. I was like, if they're going to introduce the other Spider-Mans, it's got to happen now. Because like he's at his weakest. They need the support. They're trying to figure something out. And then sure enough, he's like, "Mrr." And then as soon as that portal opened and there was another spider, I was like tapping her. I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's not him. Oh my gosh, that's somebody else." And she's like, "Stop."
Was she familiar with the original films?
Yeah.
Or cared as much as you did, or you think? Or
I don't know. I didn't ask her too much about it. I don't want to speak
because I'm always interested in somebody's
opinion
of it that, just a casual go.
She loves Marvel films. I think.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that she was.
I mean, that Sam Raimi first Spider-Man, pitch perfect in terms of source material and just hitting every emotional is an amazing film. I walked out of that. I was like, mind blown.
It was great. Yeah. I think it was a good time for that film too, because I remember that happened like right around 9/11, and when that came out,
because they cut out the scene where he was hung behind
on the two towers. Yeah, and it was like because they originally had a webbing between the two towers in the promo. And then that happened. So when they released that, it was a very like uplifting, like encouraging movie. You know, it's like this kid who's down and out of his luck, and he stumbles upon this big power, and then he rises up to the challenge and saves the day. And
but I thought, I think you were going to say Tobey Maguire. I thought he was perfect in it. He's a perfect young Peter Parker, and he's a perfect older Spider-Man in the college years.
Who does he see in this one? And then they're like, "Well, how's it going for you?" And he's like, "I've grown up, and things are good." And I was like, man, that actually he delivered the line well. I think he played the older Spider-Man really well.
He really did, like a respectful older Spider-Man. Yeah. He's definitely aged.
Because even when he stops the Hobgoblin, the surfboard or whatever, the flying board, And they're like, "Are you okay?" And he goes, "I've been stabbed before."
Yeah, I haven't yeah,
good.
yeah. It's by Hobgoblin too, right? When they fought, he stabs him, right?
But like you said, and Garfield then can still continue to be the goofy, immature kind of one. And right.
But he's jaded now, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like.
But I think they bring life back into
Andrew
him.
Garfield was always the best with the quips in my mind. Like he was the most sass.
Mm-hmm.
Tobey Maguire was good on his feet, but he had the best, I think, transition from Peter Parker to Spider-Man. He was like the best for that. Andrew Garfield was a really good Spider-Man, but as far as like Peter Parker, it was like, he's a bit nerdy, but he's kind of just like a cool guy.
Right, Peter Parker's not supposed to be cool.
No,
yeah, Garfield's Peter Parker was a skater dude. You know, I'm like, that's not him.
So I don't know.
But like I said, I loved his Spider-Man version because I thought the quips were great.
Yeah.
And only because it was only mentioned briefly by Dave, who whispered it. We have to talk about Maddie Murdock being.
Oh yes, yeah, like, that's a cool tie-in, and I'm glad that.
Did they just do that just to be like, look, Daredevil, or
so you haven't watched the Hawkeye?
I haven't finished it.
They're bringing him in. I mean, he's legitimately going to be a part of it. He's going
to be in the MCU.
I believe so.
Movies.
Well, I don't know what the plans are for Daredevil. Go ahead. What were you going to say? Sorry.
He's going to spoil us.
I mean, Hawkeye's already out, but
you can
can you spoil Hawkeye?
Yeah, you want to or not?
I haven't seen it yet, so
then don't worry about it.
Sorry. But I do believe that he's in line to be a part of it because I mean they're bringing in Blade.
What?
You didn't know that?
No,
that's not a spoiler. They announced
Snipes?
Blade.
You didn't see Eternals yet?
No.
It's Ashad Mali, right?
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know how to pronounce it, but he's awesome actor. Name.
But yeah, they're bringing in Blade. Like they announced that film, and they're bringing in the Black Knight guy, and so they're like
Jon Snow.
Jon Snow's going to be Black Knight. Yeah, so they're expanding their repertoire.
We haven't seen Eternals
because you always had kind of like the more, in my opinion, lesser known kind of like running their own course superheroes, which would be like the Blade or like the Daredevil or Punisher. They're kind of like they run their own path and do their own thing. And then every once in a while, maybe they would get pulled in if there's like a side story they need to like if it's something goes really crazy and like, I know the guy for that, then you might have them pop in. And so that's how they're kind of, it feels like expanding it.
It's been one of those things where Spider-Man was always the neighborhood Spider-Man, right?
Yep.
Daredevil was always only in Hell's Kitchen.
Yeah.
So I always liked that about Spider-Man and Daredevil, but they took Spider-Man out of the neighborhood and it worked just fine.
Yeah.
So can they take Daredevil out? Can they start picking up all these local heroes? And
yeah, I think so.
It'd be kind of cool.
Yeah. But we'll see. I'm glad that those characters, that set of characters are getting, I guess, added into the Marvel universe because they kind of really set the stage
Murdock
for Marvel film, Marvel shows
for me.
Oh, really?
I had no idea.
That was a great line.
He popped up. I was like, "Oh, dang!"
When the brick comes out, because I mean, it's a brilliant shot where it's the stab of the cane and then the swirl around reveal.
Mm-hmm.
But when he catches that brick, he's like, "How did you do that?" He's
like,
I'm just a really good lawyer.
I'm just a really good lawyer.
Yeah, I think one of the things they did really well in this film actually is they developed the Spidey sense. And I talked about that.
The Peter Tingle.
Yeah, the Peter Tingle. They didn't do a very good job of that, especially in the first film, in my opinion. He had like no real tingle of any sort. This one, they did a very good job of showing.
I know what I meant to look up. So Doctor Strange hits Peter out of himself.
Yeah.
Right? And then like, I swear I saw just the briefest moment of like the sixth sense or whatever, the spider sense.
Yeah, that's what's
like
going on.
The comic one.
Yeah.
Oh, like the lines?
Yeah, I swear. I mean, I'd have to look it up.
They did that really cool in, I don't know if you saw Into the Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
Everything
did that
about that.
with that. They did the Spidey sense with like the lines like that.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see that, but it definitely showed that it activated his Spidey sense. That's how he was still dodging.
You didn't see Into the Spider-Verse. I'm like, what?
No. I was just saying I didn't see the lines
blew my mind.
pop up on
You see the trailer for the sequel?
Yes, looks very good as well. Yeah, I'm excited for that as well.
There's your Gwen Stacy, though, so it's kind of cool.
Well, and I thought about that. Like, I was like, well, if they brought in
a live-action Spider-Man would work in the animated film, but an animated wouldn't work in a live-action.
I thought they should have brought in an animated one into this. And
Might as
Spider
well.
That would have been so
Roger Rabbit
too
it,
much for
no?
me. I would have
Just
been like,
one. I mean, not
"What?"
like a whole animated universe.
That's
but just,
going what if. I mean, you're literally talking about live action versus animated. I mean, I'm sorry.
No, in my defense, like I said,
Yeah.
I would have gone huge with the multiverse, and they did
Yeah.
a great job of
No,
keeping
if they
it.
can make Peter
grounded.
Porker work.
What that
they
would
can do
see
it.
the problem with some of that to me would have been that would have
Spider-Ham.
way downplayed the role of Tobey Maguire. And,
Oh,
you know, Andrew
yeah,
Garfield.
too many.
It's like,
but they didn't have a lot to work
yeah, if
with.
you
It's
have
not
like you know the pig Spider-Man, the robot Spider-Man from like the multiverse with two mainstays, it's like how
No,
would
if
you
they-
ever resolve?
if they would have pulled that 70s Spider-Man I used to watch
Yeah.
in some type of rotoscope thing, that would have blown my mind.
noir
Or even at the very
Spider-Man.
end when they're all saying goodbye, he could have just showed up and been like, "Oh, did I miss it?"
Yeah,
What's going on?
I would have been okay with that with like a last, because you know for the usually they do an
You try to
after
look up his name.
they do like a mid credits scene and they'll do like an after credit scene. I would have been fine with instead of doing a trailer for what is going to be the next Doctor Strange, if they had done like a here's a Spider-Man from the multiverse type thing. That would have been funny at the very end.
Right.
Like that would have been probably better tie-in than
I mean, I think you're
than the
right. I think
trailer.
a live action Spider-Man works better in the animated Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I would have gone huge with it, especially at the very end, like when Strange is holding it all together and all these little like white figures are coming through the rift.
Yeah.
They could have just made them people.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you have to even interact. They're just starting to come through, and there could have been a
again,
cartoon
like you said,
Spider-Man.
you know, Hollywood streamlines everything.
Yeah,
like,
sure.
Just gotta boil it.
It would have
down.
cost more
Yeah, I
money
think
to.
this is-
Probably to
this
get
is
those
more-
properties.
to more focus on a Sony multiverse, not a true multiverse.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think you're going to get that later on.
Who knows?
So-
We'll see what they get with Into the Spider-Verse. I mean, maybe they'll bring
can we
Tom
talk
Holland.
about the
Nicholas
the
Hammond.
end scene, which is basically a Doctor Strange trailer?
Yeah, we can talk about that briefly if you guys.
I only saw there was another one at the end. I saw the Venom one.
Always.
Oh, there was always two.
The theater
You always
turned
gotta
the
count for
theater
two.
turned the lights up.
That's
So in my
okay.
mind, I was like, "Oh, they're
Oh.
telling us there isn't one."
Don't
It's-
worry, I
it's just a
recorded it. I
trailer.
can show it to you.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just a trailer.
You can tell
it's
me
there's
about
literally
a-
a trailer
there's a
for the
one-
new Doctor Strange.
There's a
film.
one scene in there where there's a girl in some jean jacket that has the Star brand,
Yeah.
and I'm thinking that's Carter.
Okay.
I'll show you. I got a screen capture.
Yeah, I'm
So I'm
interested
hoping
in the
it goes
Doctor
full
Strange, but-
blown. But I'm so excited for Kang.
Oh.
If they can do Kang
Yeah.
right, it's
Yeah.
going to be awesome.
One thing
Yeah.
I didn't have in my notes, but I really liked about this No Way Home, I think we finally got to see what Doctor Strange can actually do. When he was like, I would say fighting, because I think he was pulling punches, but
Yeah.
when he was fighting Spider-Man,
Yeah.
like that was awesome.
Yeah.
It was cool to see his power just like fully realized. Like he's had it for years now. He knows what he can do.
Yeah,
it
he's
was cool.
basically doing what that one Tilda Sweeney character did
Yeah, the original one. Yeah,
Yeah.
way back when in the first.
from him. Yeah.
First
But
movie
like
of
with
his.
minimal effort. And he's just
But
Yeah.
I did like how Spider-Man was resisting the astral plane, and
That was
he could
really
still, and the spider senses still reacted to his.
Yeah, he's
Mhm.
dodging.
Yeah,
He's like,
funny.
"How are you doing that?" I thought that was
that
really
was
cool.
funny. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought that was a great scene. I mean, I was thinking, I was like, how are you gonna beat Doctor Strange? I mean, the guy's literally like magic, and you can swing, and you're strong, and
Mhm.
that's about it. He
That's
can-
my only other problem. Maybe is he literally, and he's out of the film for the entire thing except for the very end.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of silly.
But even
yeah.
Spider-Man
But again,
comes back to
what are
his
you gonna
friends and he's like, I just fought Doctor Strange
Yeah.
and I won.
Yeah,
You know?
it was funny. Well, and what I didn't like, when I first started watching that scene, I was like, I kind of, maybe because we've been through Endgame, I understand where Doctor Strange is coming from. Like, I'm not saying that I want anybody to die, but at the same time, if this is going to prevent what happened with Thanos by not going for the head, then it's like they were already dead. Send them. They
Mhm.
chose. They made this life their own. They they go back to what their fate kind of determined for them, right? And it's sad to say. And again, I don't want people die needlessly, but I kind of supported Doctor Strange in that. And then as they're going down the path, I was like, okay, this is obviously going to break apart. And then when it does, Tom Holland did such a good job of emoting that like, I caused this. I was trying to trust what she said. I think that's the only thing that I kind of wish had been there, is a little bit more of like a just of it. Like it felt like they were being too over the top with their like, it has to be, we have to save these people and you have to do what's good by them and da da da. And it ended up working, but it was like people had to die in order for that. Aunt May had to die.
Right. I agree.
Everybody's memory had to be erased. Like all these things, bad things had to happen in order to justify saving those people. So I'm not saying that.
Especially because he'd already set it up where he's like, MJ, if I text you, hit this button, I'm going to go try to cure him.
Right.
And as soon as trouble started in that apartment, he should have texted her.
Yeah.
Or he should have stopped everything and said, if you don't listen to me, you're all going back. And when you go back, you're all dead.
Right.
So what do you want? Do you want to be cured and live, or do you want to be dead?
The whole like.
Well, I think that almost works, but Green Goblin is just.
Yeah, he's
crazy.
Screwing it all over. Yeah, because
He's
he is
crazy.
the one that started the apartment fight, too.
But I mean,
he's
it's literally
crazy.
multiple personalities.
Yeah.
It's not actually his fault because he was going to go along with it. And I
Right.
love that dynamic where they're actually all working together.
Yeah.
And like,
The stakes were like immediately thrown out the window, though. It was like, well, you better not mess this up, otherwise you're going to push the button. And it was like immediately like, well, that didn't really.
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, he didn't call. Should we push it now?
Or even he
Yeah.
should have pulled out his phone and started the text, and before he could hit send, William
Or
Dafoe
just-
blows it up or
Just
something.
be in his Spider-Man outfit in case something bad happens, and it's like you had a camera, live stream it. So it's like you're literally dealing
The
with
phone went dead. You
like-
don't think something went wrong?
right. You're literally dealing with homicidal killers. I get you don't want them around because you want to keep that thing safe, but it's like live stream it,
Yeah, exactly.
right? You've shown you know how to use this technology. Why not use it instead of relying on a text message? It's like, that kind of stretched out of the realm of like they had to.
You
It
guys
had to
just
go in a certain
watch
direction.
my phone. I'm going to send you a live FaceTime video.
Exactly. Yeah. Like
One thing that I got confused on was they kept showing the little armband that was keeping Doc Ock's nanobots controlled.
Yeah.
And it kept showing that little hologram that said armed, right?
Yeah.
And I thought they were showing that, alluding to the fact that Aunt May was going to be like, oh, do you want some water? Here, let me turn your arms off so you can grab it and drink it.
Yeah.
Or whatever it was going to be. But then I realized they were just showing that to remind you why he wasn't.
he wasn't moving because of that. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But like it's like when they put the chip in him, I thought he was going to like release it and then he was going to go crazy.
I agreed. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if there's much more to say. I feel like we've said a lot here. So
We always say a lot.
anything we haven't covered with the film actions?
I just want to know that 70s
Yeah, I'm saying
Spider-Man
it.
act-
Nicholas Hammond
Yes.
from
Nicholas Hammond.
77.
I mean, huge.
I used to
huge.
watch the original Spider-Man cartoon that they had on Saturday mornings.
Mhm.
That was my
Oh, yeah.
favorite.
And Amazing Friends.
Yeah,
You
with
I think
X-Men
that's
and everything.
on Disney Plus.
It is,
now.
yeah. I tried watching some of it.
plug
It's
there.
just it's gotten so old now.
No, they're classic to me, though.
They are,
that
yeah.
was Saturday morning growing up.
I still remember the MJ on there. She was entirely different than that. I had a problem with MJ too in this iteration. It was
But this
like-
one isn't even Mary Jane. What's she say? Jones?
she is now.
Something
She is
Jones?
MJ. Yeah,
But she's just MJ, but her name isn't Mary Jane.
Yeah, that's
it is Mary Jones Watson.
Mary Jones.
Yeah,
No,
MJ
I don't
Watson.
even think it was.
It is
Mary.
if they when
Because they do say Jones
they
Watson.
show her on the. Again, it's a little bit of like an Easter
I
egg.
believe you. What
But
am
like
I-
when
I
they're
don't care.
doing the when what's his name's talking about Spider-Man, he shows the accomplices,
Mhm.
or it's on the paper. It might be actually
I
on the
wanna say it
paper
was Michelle
from the
or
Daily
something.
Bugle.
I don't know.
It
why I
shows
think
each
that.
of their names in full.
They say it in
and
the-
it says Mary Jones Watson.
When like the CIA is
on her.
interviewing her, they
Yeah.
say Miss Watson, and she goes, "It's just Jones now."
Yeah, but it is Mary. It is MJ.
But it's Mary Jones.
Yeah, but
right?
she's not really. That's the thing. She's not really MJ. Like she is in this universe, but like she's not the
Yeah.
original MJ.
no, and even
She's
Toby
this
Maguire guy,
universes.
it keeps saying
Yeah.
that my MJ. He keeps saying,
Yeah.
"Oh, I mean my MJ."
Yeah. Which is like it's fine. It's different universes. I get it.
Yeah,
that
and I
doesn't
love
mean that I have
Kristen
to like it
Dunst.
as much as the original,
No,
but it is what it is. There's
I
things
like
about
her as an actress. I think she's perfectly
she was
capable.
I would've been-
awesome since Interview with a Vampire.
I would have been fine if they created a new role for her. Like she doesn't have to be Mary Jane. She could have been like Zendaya Jane. Like,
Right.
she could have been a completely different actress, and I would have been like, okay,
Mhm.
that's totally fine. But it's like, do you have to make her Mary Jane when it's like, it feels like you're just cashing in because she's not anything like. At least you could say Aunt May is like some aspects of Aunt May. She's that person. I guess I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking it. Maybe I'm underthinking it.
Mm.
Maybe I'm being rude and stupid and bad. So
All of the above, maybe.
all the above, yeah.
Carry on.
Carry on. Yep. All right. Well, I guess with that, we'll probably wrap things up. Why don't you give the listeners some ways to get connected to you guys again?
Yeah, again, I've been Ross Caligiuri. You can find me at dreamingintheshadows.com.
Dave at thevasic.com.
Sweet. For me, as always, you can get connected through the website, which is reelreviewmedia.com. We also have Facebook, which is Facebook/reelreviewmedia, Facebook.com/reelreviewmedia. And then we'd love to hear your thoughts and perspectives on anything we talked about, past, present, or maybe even future for the show. So shoot us a line, reelreviewmedia@gmail.com. If you had any additional thoughts, input, perspectives, or whatnot, love to hear
I'll
that
answer
from you.
any and all questions.
Yes.
posed.
This will probably be our last one of the year too. So just want to say
Probably
thanks for
will be.
listening, and we'll catch you next year.
Yeah,
Happy
we usually
holidays and all that. Yeah.
Well, usually with the podcast, we do a year in review type thing, but there just hasn't been enough to do a year in review type episode.
Right.
So,
And we've also done hours and hours of content on movies.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we usually do a best of and worst of on the podcast,
So
but
I would
We
like more
knocked out a
stuff.
couple this year. How many do you think we did?
6, 5.
yeah, 5 or
Teen?
6. Yeah, we usually go back to. I mean, when we were reviewing like, 2 or 3 episodes a week.
I'll
there's
start
like you
doing
can
some,
pick out your top 10 or your
Yeah.
bottom 10. Now it's like my top 3 or my bottom 3. It's like it.
Do we need to boost up the numbers?
I don't know.
So I can start doing walking to
Are
my
you gonna
car
take your shirt off? Is that
reviews.
where this happens?
Walking to my car reviews. It's sunny in 76.
Yeah, there you go. Awesome. All right. Well, with that, it has
Just
been
came
real.
out of
What?
I just came out of Lucille Ball show. I can't remember the name of it now.
Oh,
I
I
ruined
Love
the
Lucy?
joke. I Love Lucy. Yeah.
Yeah, not a great one. Maybe, I don't know. We'll see.
Strong ending. Strong
Strong
ending.
ending. Yep.
Okay.
Which one? It's a Lucille Ball show.
No, this.
All right, let me wrap it up, guys. Yeah. All right, it's been real.